game, so before we start, here are some words you need to know. Un placage, a hit. Un autre placage, another hit. Encore un autre placage, still another hit. Ah, very good. Now we're set to play. Today, a one-time offer only as East meets West. When these birds migrated north, their talent followed. Tracy's a roadrunner. He eats up the yardage and other teams' defenses. Mike is looking fresh and extra crispy. He's no chicken. Peyton can be one ornery buzzard. He won't leave a scrap. The Lions are hungry and looking for a win. Damon's a winner. He knows what it takes to be the king. Corey's the catalyst. He's back and looking for prey. So then, welcome to the game. Hey, you guys didn't have to dress up. It's a glorious day in Montreal where the rebirth of the Canadian Football League is into its 4th month, and the Alouettes have been cultivating the interest of fans. They've been averaging 25,000. BC Lions would like to cultivate the interest of an owner, and therein lies the importance of this game for the Lions. Welcome now to Olympic Stadium. It's the first time we've been able to say that in the CFL on CBC in 10 years. I'm Scott Oak. It's the nature of this league that each week every team seems to be involved in a must-win situation. It's that times two for the Lions today as they seek to get the fans out for their next home game and maybe even a prospective buyer. Count on seeing a bit of running in this game today as it features the CFL's 2 top rushing quarterbacks of all time. They would be Tracy Ham and Damon Allen. Each have built their careers around their ability to scramble. And ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to this telecast today Dash Riprock. This would be Dan Kepley in his playing prime with the Eskimos. Lived a lot of his life in the passing lane, and so we're greatly annoyed to say that he hasn't changed one bit. Looks just as good as ever. By the way, Chris Cuthbert's here to describe the proceedings. Here, you admire this for a while. Chris, a lot of memories in this building, even if we haven't been here for 10 years.
Yeah, there's been some great memories in this building. Last time I was here, they didn't have a roof, and Kep might have another Grey Cup ring if they had the roof in 1977. No problem about the field conditions today, though.
Fast track today, and we've got 2 guys out there that can really make a movement on there. This guy right here, Mike Pringle, led the league in rushing in the last 2 years, 94 and 95, 13 touchdowns each season. Last week, his first game back, had a rough start, but he will get on track. For the BC Lions, Corey Philpott. Another guy having trouble getting on track, 22 touchdowns last year, only 1 this year, and that was via the pass.
And he's being pushed by Ron Williams, who will also be in the backfield for the Lions today. And as Scott mentioned, those 2 great running back quarterbacks.
And Lions and Alouettes are the CFL's 2 top rushing teams, so we know what to expect, probably an aerial attack. Some breaking news from Toronto where the Argonauts have signed Canadian linebacker Mike O'Shea, and he'll play tomorrow for the Argos on special teams versus Saskatchewan at the Skydome. This signing's a blow for the Ticats, who badly wanted O'Shea to return to them but lost out in the bidding. Coming up on the BF Goodrich TA halftime report from Olympic Stadium today, the return of the CFL to Montreal. We'll get a sampling of opinion on how it's going versus how it went in the glory days of the Alouettes. And we'll go to Ottawa to talk to Jim Durrell, the man who's trying to save the Rough Riders. He's got 48 hours left in which to do it. The league decides on Ottawa at midday Monday. Whether or not a factor at Olympic Stadium hasn't been since '93, the last time they raised the roof here, and so conditions are perfect. And here are Chris and Dan.
Thank you, Scott. The BC Lions will kick it off. Dave Chaters has the war paint on. He's ready to go as the BC Lions hope to continue what's been a pretty good road record this season. They're 2-3, and the 3 losses by a combined 6 points.
It's a good opportunity to try to come back and get something going, but they're catching Montreal after a big loss last week to Ottawa.
Here's Mike Pringle with the opening kickoff, and Pringle will get a lot of action today. Julio Caravetta, the man who kicked it off, will force Pringle out of bounds after a 35-yard return. Well, this year, the Montreal Alouettes have been slow starters under the direction of Tracy Ham, and he'll try to get this offense untracked early in the game against the BC Lions. Second meeting between these 2 teams, and Ham was very sharp in the opening game, a 44-24 win over BC in July.
I think it's a good opportunity. Tracy knows he's been taking a lot of pressure this year so far, but for him himself, he's a guy that's had a couple of problems early in the season, some injuries to his back, and Chater's the war paint showing up early in this game.
Big hit already on Mike Pringle, who's behind an experienced offensive line. Mike Withercombe is the center today, coming off an elbow injury. Jock Climby, one of the prime receivers, along with Chris Armstrong. They'll throw a lot inside. Tracy Ham's trying to get the outside game going as well. We might have to see it here. It's second down and long, and Ham fumbles the football. Here's a pass in the flat, and he has Dexter Dawson for the catch and a first down, and we haven't seen a lot of that this year, Kep. Ham going outside to the receivers.
I think he knows right now that if he can get it outside, stretch that BC defense across the field, it's going to help to open up guys like Climby and Armstrong inside. Dexter Dawson does a good job. This is only his third catch of the season. This is a rookie season for him. He's also out of the same school that Tracy Ham played, Georgia Southern.
So it's a first down at the BC 47 for Ham and company. Empty backfield, and Ham looking for Chris Armstrong. That's a pickup down to the 42-yard line of close to 5. Maurice Kelly with the stop. Armstrong with his 40th catch of the season, which is 8th in the CFL. Shelton Quarles was the guy that laid the big hit on Matt Dunnigan in early August. They have 2 linebackers. Tyrone Chapman is a big man inside, and Kelly Sims returns to the lineup today in the secondary for BC. Second down, and Ham swings it out to the other side. Incomplete, but a late flag as Tracy Ham was decked in the backfield.
I think we're going to get unnecessary roughness against Robert Davis, who comes in as the nickel back on the blitz, putting a lot of pressure on Tracy Ham early, forcing him to throw quickly.
Roughing the passer, BC number 7, first down.
Well, Joe Pow looks on in frustration because that will extend the drive and move it down to the 27-yard line.
BC, one of the most penalized teams in this league. It's tough enough when you're playing behind the 8 ball, but when you're killing yourself with cheap penalties and bad penalties, that's going to hurt you.
There's Pringle again, slammed in the backfield. Kelly Sims moved up, and Mike Pringle is finding the CFL defense's tough sledding in his return. Ottawa really gave him a rough ride at Frank Clair last week.
Good look. Take a look at the arms and the eyes of Dave Chaters. This is a guy that really is a leader out there, a quiet leader, as Joe Pow said. He leads by example, and if it's any example in this first couple of series against the Montreal Alouettes, they're in for a long day against this BC defense.
Mike Pringle, 1,791 yards last year. He's -8 on his first 2 carries as Ham looks into the end zone. Joey Yock, what a catch! No signal yet. And a penalty on the play, and Yock pushed off.
I think we're going to get that. It was a late call after Joey Yock made a great catch, but he could have pushed off with that right hand just a little.
And it's offensive pass interference, and that negates a brilliant effort by Yock to pull in this pass from Tracy Ham.
2 receivers in the same area, Yock and Armstrong. He throws it up for grabs, and Yock just makes a great catch, sails out, but right at the last minute, puts a little bit of that right arm, gives a push to Maurice Kelly. There it is. You can see the separation that it creates. Yock makes the great catch, but to no avail.
But Ham already showing an ability to get outside today, and these are the 2 most penalized teams in the league. The Lions had over 200 yards in their last game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So second down over and 20. There's a pass out to Michael Souls, the McGill graduate, the Montreal native. Gets it back inside the 35, and it'll be third down. Robert Davis with the tackle.
Michael Souls has found just new life since coming to Montreal. It was the guy that had left the Edmonton Eskimos, felt that he may be going to retire, wanted to play for Montreal. Finally, they came to some agreements on some contracts, and Michael's at home playing in front of some home crowd and family and doing an excellent job for this ball club this year.
Terry Baker in to attempt a 42-yarder as you check his numbers on the season. And Baker puts it through for the opening points of this game. It's the first time this year the Lions have not led early, as Montreal strikes first off the toe of Terry Baker.
Montreal, but what an incredible finish at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton last night. 3rd and 10, 6 seconds to go. Ball on the Calgary 28. Esks down by 6. Cody Ledbetter hits Darren Flutie for the major score. Shades of the pass that Flutie caught to get BC to the Grey Cup in '94. This one, Ledbetter's first CFL touchdown pass. With the extra point, the Eskimos beat the Stamps 20-19. Chris?
A remarkable game last night at Commonwealth Stadium, and a great advertisement for the league, as the Eskimos pull one out and may have found a new quarterbacking star in Cody Ledbetter.
Well, he was a guy that had been very impressive in camp, just has not had an opportunity to show his stuff. But under the utmost of conditions and stress, he comes in there and puts on a show for the crowd in Edmonton.
And the Lions will tell you what a difference a quarterback will make. Damon Allen in. He's 2-4 as the starter, but has really turned things around and given BC an optimistic look now. As you see his numbers since joining the Lions, Mike Trevathan has been incredible since Damon took over, and I mentioned that today, and he said the whole offense has really turned it around with the addition of Allen. First play from scrimmage for the Lions, and a flag goes down. Here's the offensive alignment. Craig Hendrickson will be in an interesting battle today against Alfred Payton on that all-Canadian offensive line for BC. And Larry Thompson was out at wideout for the Lions last game out against Winnipeg and looked good, and he's another weapon to an already good offensive team, especially with Millington and Philpott in the backfield.
He's one of those guys, he can take it deep at any time you want to, and anytime you can stretch the defense the way that he can with his speed and ability to catch the ball, it's going to give guys like Clark and Trevathan a lot of room to move inside.
Illegal substitution for Montreal, so it's a first down up at the 39. And Corey Philpott will try to get outside. They'll try and establish this running game against Montreal. The BC Lions are number 2 rushing on the season with over 128 yards rushing per game.
Bad blood already starting out there. Big offensive lineman. That's Carl Coulter getting into Alfred Payton's face. There's a lot of jawing going on, and you like to see that happen early in a ball game.
And what's interesting about this matchup of running against Montreal is that's what led to BC winning the Grey Cup game against Baltimore 2 years ago. And the Alouettes are 8th in the league against the rush this year. And Mike Trevathan looks like he got a finger in the eye and is shaken up.
Overall, this Montreal defense is fast. It can really react to plays. So counter plays and slow developing plays are not the kind of things you want to run against this kind of defense. I think if you're going to see something, possibly Joe Paopao and Damon Allen taking this offense and running it right at the defense of Montreal.
Frank Pimiskern comes in to replace Trevathan for at least 3 plays. Looks like Mike will be back soon, though. But you've got a couple of interesting stories here, because they'll try and establish the run, and Corey Philpott's trying to reestablish himself as the #1 runner with the Lions. Here's a quick hitter over the middle. Matt Clark had a big seam, and Clark is into Montreal territory at the Alouette 40-yard line.
Now see, this is what's going to happen. Anytime you can establish that rushing game inside a bit, you're going to freeze the linebackers, slow those defensive linemen up just a slight bit, and this quick release of Damon Allen. Look at this. 1 step, 2, boom. Now he's got to cock it. Let's fire it out. And Clark does a great job of being able to get inside of Charlie Gordon.
Spencer McLennan, the former Lion, the safety, makes the stop on Matt Clark. It's a gain of 22. And the Lions are rolling on their first possession of the game. Now they go back inside, and this is Ron Williams cutting it outside, trying to get around Irv Smith, who pushes him out of bounds at the 17. It's another first down as the Lions are rolling. A 22-yard pickup for number 22, Ron Williams. So back-to-back 22-yard gains.
What's going to happen? Damon Allen always has the threat of running that naked bootleg if he can. And when he has an opportunity to do that, he puts a lot of stress on the defensive lineman. Now watch the lineman out front. They're going to have to get upfield as Damon comes outside. Watch the lane that it allows for this running back to work. The defensive end goes up. That's Carter. Right back down. Now he comes all the way back across. You don't even see that defensive end in the play, and that would open up that hole.
He's a load at 230 pounds. Now they go into the end zone. And incomplete as they tossed it to Corey Philpott coming out of the backfield. And Montreal called for offside, so everything breaking BC's way in this opening quarter.
And this offense of BC will certainly take it. Every little advantage that they need right now to help build up some momentum.
Well, Grant Carter had such a big playoff for Baltimore last year, and he and Alfred Payton on the ends for the Alouettes. Paul Randolph in the middle. Tracy Gravely, leading tackler in the CFL. And Charles Gordon had so many big plays for the BC Lions a couple of years ago in their run to the Grey Cup, and now playing against his old team this afternoon.
So that one change, 0-0 in there is Harold Nash. He's in for Ken Watson, who's out with some kind of an abdominal ailment.
Yeah, late scratch in the person of Watson. Here's Allen into the end zone, and he overthrew Matt Clark, who was open in the end zone, and that'll bring up second down.
And you see Damon picking himself off the turf. A guy named Alfred Payton doing what he did so well last year with 18 sacks, led the league in the CFL sacks with 22 in 1993. But let's see how Matt Clark gets open. He's working against Nash, comes off, gives a little shake. Now he's going to come inside the zone, tries to set it down, but then the pass is just thrown way too high, but not before Tracy Gravely has a chance to come over and make that pass go higher.
2nd and 5, Sean Millington up the middle. Paul Randolph there to meet him. Randolph, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, 39 tackles on the season. And it's going to be 3rd down. And they'll need a couple. Joe Pow, that's his brother, who is the offensive backfield coach, have elected to go for the field goal here.
3rd and about 3, what Joe wants to do, obviously, you want to come away with something here. You don't want to get stuffed after you work so hard to get down there. Give it to Louis, let him put it between the pipes and get that 3 points. Build a little confidence for this offense.
And the Simon Fraser combination of Caravetta and Pisaglia goes to work. And Louis Pisaglia puts it through. So both teams have scored on their opening possessions of the game. Pisaglia and Baker on the board is 3-3.
Welcome back to Olympic Stadium, where the debate over the roof rages on. This week, the Alouettes on the field for practice yesterday, in fact, and a ladder fell through the Kevlar top and onto the field. No one was hurt, but the accident left a 6-foot tear in the roof. They've got plans for a new roof here. By the time they get it on, they'll spend $122 million on this whole deal, Chris. So you know the business of buying 2 cases of beer and getting 3 or 4 of your buddies to help you reshingle your roof doesn't work here.
Mike Pringle with the return, faking the reverse to Lewis Fight, and getting the football out 10 yards to the 25-yard line. Maurice Kelly with the tackle.
Joe Paopao stressed yesterday, he said he's learned a lot being in this league. He learned from some great coaches, Hugh Campbell, Ronnie Lancaster, Jack Goda, guys like that, of the philosophy of the Canadian Football League and the strategies that it takes place. To special teams are such a key part of this game, and you saw great discipline from his coverage team there.
First down, Montreal in this 3-3 tie, and Mike Pringle straight up the middle. And Pringle is over the 30-yard line to the 32. Virgil Robertson with the stop for the Lions. And that's the first time Pringle's carried the football for positive yards this afternoon.
Now, this is a big offensive line that he's used to rushing behind. Like I said, it's only his 2nd week, and it's going to take him just a little time to get used to these guys. This is not the All-American offensive line that he had last year in Baltimore, but these guys are something. They average 6'4.5" and weigh 300 pounds.
Extra back in as the ball swung out to Armstrong, incomplete, and it'll be 3rd down. As Tracy Ham trying to get his signal straight with the offense. Montreal in a punting situation in their 2nd possession of the game. 6:49 to play in the 1st quarter. Bob Price's team has had this habit of really not clicking on all cylinders in the early going.
They come out there and they look like they haven't worked together all week. It's like guys should wear name tags and kind of introduce themselves to one another a bit. But when they get in there, somehow they need to be able to bring this glue. And somebody out there has to take charge to bring them all together.
Larry Thompson, the lone man back for BC, and brings it back to the 38-yard line. 50-yard punt by Terry Baker. And an 8-yard return. And there is a flag down. Well, in front of the Montreal bench as Jake Ireland receives word. And it's going against BC.
Illegal block against BC. Now, this is the kind of thing you get a little momentum going. And look what happened.
number 29.
Well, we talked about the imports on the offensive line for Montreal. This is the only all-Canadian offensive line remaining in the CFL. And Joe Paopau's brought in some imports, looked at them, and these guys have hung on to their jobs.
Well, this has been a theory through the CFL for a number of years. Get that offensive line, get them all Canadians, and these guys are doing the job. They have played together the last 6 games, so they're starting to get a good solid base. But that allows Joe some options in those Americans as his backups in other positions.
Here's Allen faking once, and Damon Allen taken to the turf. There's Paul Randolph coming from the middle linebacking position and nailing Damon Allen for a loss.
Damon wants to come out. He's going to fake the hitch screen, and when he knows he's going to fake, then he's going to pump it and have Matt Clark go deep on this play. Somebody's got to pick up Randolph. If you don't, you've got to release the ball quickly. That middle linebacker, Paul Randolph, great speed, able to sack Damon Allen.
Loss of 5, 2nd and 15. Allen just dumps it off, and Corey Philpott has it. And Philpott at the 20 is nailed. Flag comes down. Wonder if somebody got a piece of Philpott's face mask.
It's either a face mask or it's going to be an illegal block against BC trying to help out Philpott downfield.
Yep, that's what it is. It's against the Lions.
Illegal block. BC number 88. Decline. 3rd down.
Called on Larry Thompson. The penalty declined by Montreal. And as was the case for the Alouettes on their second series, the Lions are forced into a quick punting situation on their second possession. Last time Louis Pasaglia was in this building, 1988, he was with the Cleveland Browns in the preseason playing the New York Jets. Of course, his fondest memory, the 1985 Grey Cup victory for the Lions here. Dexter Dawson is back. Boy, does Montreal miss Chris Wright, the explosive rookie from a year ago. Dawson up to midfield as a flag flies. 48-yard punt by 42-year-old Louis Pasaglia. Tracy Ham enjoying good field position. A face mask call was tacked on. It'll be Montreal ball at the BC 40. There's Dan Crowley, who is the backup quarterback today. Tommy Frazier was hospitalized this week for pneumonia, and we understand that both Tracy Ham and Damon Allen visited him yesterday. We extend our wishes. Health problems have slowed his professional football career, but we hope to see Frazier back quickly as Tracy Ham is decked, and Shelton Quarles is in for the sack along with Johnny Scott.
Good defensive play by these two guys, and what they're going to do, they're not that big up front against this big Montreal offensive line. They're going to use their quickness and their speed, be able to get outside, and they bring the linebackers at 2, try to occupy one of those offensive linemen up front, get a one-on-one block, and then the guy says, if you get a one-on-one block, you're supposed to beat that, just the way we saw Johnny Scott and Quarles do. They met in the backfield.
They'll share the sack, and they both had sick coming into the game, and here is Ham airing it out, looking for Dawson. Great coverage afforded on Dexter Dawson by Brandon Hamilton, step for step with the Montreal wideout.
Brandon Hamilton was a guy that was familiar to Joe Paopau. From his days at Edmonton, he was a corner there, and he was the first guy that Joe Paopau picked in the dispersal draft. He wanted somebody on that hot corner, and stride for stride with the speedster, Dexter Dawson.
Dawson replacing Nigel Williams, a Canadian who had an outstanding game against Pow Pow's Lions back in July. 130 yards in receiving that day as Baker booms a beauty, this one going into the end zone, and Larry Thompson lets it bounce around there and is about to concede a single point. So with 4:08 to play in this first quarter, it's a 64-yard single and a 4-3 Montreal lead. The Nations Cup, Bank of Montreal Nations Cup from Spruce Meadows is coming up live today with Scott Russell and Terry Leibel from Calgary. Another big weekend of sports on CBC, that following today's football game from Olympic Stadium in Montreal.
Great sports. Speaking of sports, to you again in Ottawa last night. This must be an easy game to call. These names are pretty easy, like Kelly, Sims, Davis. There's not multiple vowels in here, and also syllables, huh?
No Russian or Finnish names to worry about.
They're trying to work on that, but this is. Are you getting full pace?
No, you're going to carry me again today. That's Corey Philpott carrying the ball and hopping over one tackler. And Philpott using that blazing speed to the outside. Brought down by a former teammate, Tracy Gravely. Gravely on the outside leading the CFL in tackles with 60. And there's Dave Ritchie, the former head coach of the BC Lions. And he's running the defense for Montreal.
This is a great guy. He had an opportunity to talk with him before the game. And he's just excited. I mean, he's been in Montreal a number of times before, prior with the Alouettes and the Concords, and that is one of his key players right there that he can base this defense on, Grant Carter.
You know, it says a lot about a coach. We were talking to them when the Lions came out, and just about every member of the Lions came over to embrace Dave and to wish him well, and I think that speaks volumes of the respect that Dave Ritchie has around the league. There's Ron Williams with the carry, as again it's Philpott and Williams sharing the load, and quite a 1-2 tandem for the Lions on the running game.
Like you say, Williams is the load. He's in there at about 210 pounds.
Well, they list him at 210, but
they list him at 210, but he's cheating a little bit on that. He's about 230.
Has 5, 2nd and 5. BC close to the 55, and they try the reverse. This is Ronald Williams coming around and got outside, turned the corner, and down to the Montreal 40. So they continue to pound it out on the ground as Williams follows the right guard, Jamie Terrace.
The old Statue of Liberty play. Damon Allen's going to come back, set quickly, force it, get the defense to react. Now this is where this Montreal speed goes, all toward the fake. Then he hands it off to Williams up underneath, makes a good break to the outside, loses containment. Gain tackle by the Montreal Alouettes, but not before a big first down, and keeps this drive alive for the BC Lions.
Already Williams 45 yards rushing. Philpott has chipped in 23. And now Allen goes to the air, and coming back for the ball is Ted Alford. Nice catch by Alford, and he's brought down by Irv Smith, one of the toughest corners in the league. But Alford's been impressive of late for the BC Lions, and he's won a job at the wideout position.
5'9", rookie season. Now watch the move that he makes. Damon Allen throws this ball behind, makes a great adjustment to it, as Smith does not pick up the ball. Alfred does. Now he does a little spin around the move and picks up an extra 4 or 5 yards.
Irv Smith, the two-time All-Canadian, but Ted Alford has really opened some eyes in BC and given them another offensive weapon. And now Montreal jumped offside. We'll find out if they're drawn, and you can see at the bottom of the screen Alford and Irv Smith jawing, and Irv Smith kicked Alford, and that's why another flag has flown. So they've already got something going. Smith isn't usually beaten and took exception to Alford making that last catch.
Well, you get out there one-on-one, and it is two individuals that are going at one another. Nobody wants to be embarrassed, and you don't want to talk about it and get somebody in your face after the fact. And there's concern on that guy's face, Bob Price, is the fact that his team is losing some discipline out there.
Offside, Montreal, number 54. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Montreal, number 21. First down.
So Carter offside, and then the unnecessary roughness call against Irv Smith and Bob Price. Can't be happy about that because the ball ends up on the 3-yard line, and it's 1st and goal BC. Full house backfield. And the give up the middle, and that's big Sean Millington down to the goal line, but not in. Scott Miller in the pile, making sure he didn't cross the plane.
Sean Millington coming into the BC Lions last year, played 7 games, 318 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns. He already has 2 touchdowns on the ground this year. That's 2 more than Corey Philpott.
I'll still remember how Dave Ritchie used Sean Millington against Baltimore in that Grey Cup game a couple of years back, pounding it out, and he'll get in. Sean Millington crossing the line, and the BC Lions have a major and the lead.
Terrific explosion up front by this offensive line. Those guys, as I said, they've been set together here these last 6 games, and they are really playing well. The addition of Hendrickson at left tackle has really solidified this offensive line. But look at the right side. Jamie Terrace, Cole to the center. Todd Furtick gets a good kick-out block, and then the big, powerful fullback, Millington. All he does is drop that head, use those big, strong legs, and gets it over the goal line.
Yeah, Jason Bryant filled the hole, but that's a load to stop. Millington, 6'2", 225, out of Simon Fraser University, with his 3rd rushing touchdown of the season. I want to clarify something earlier. I said the BC Lions have led in every game this year. They haven't necessarily scored first, but have led in every game, and they lead again here with 34 seconds to play in the first quarter, and a flag down after the play. And this time it's going against BC. Let's see if we have a disqualification here.
Major foul, rough play, disqualification, BC number 22.
That's Ronald Williams. And Joe Paopao has suddenly lost one of his main weapons.
That look right there on Joe Paopau's face sums up exactly everything that's happening. You go in there and you score, you have some success, you're getting the ball into the end zone, and then a guy like Williams, all he wants to do, loses control, loses his discipline just for that minute. Now he's the valuable product that he is in the backfield is missed, and he goes to the locker room.
Former Clemson Tiger showing too much of the eye of the Tiger there, and he's finished for the afternoon.
This guy came in, he was the first 1,000-yard rusher that Clemson had 1990 ACC Rookie of the Year. He comes in there with all the credentials. You just got to be able to maintain and keep your composure.
Well, the plus side is you've got Corey Philpott, who looks like he is back on his game today, but the Lions like Williams. They like the tandem, and they like the fact that Williams was pushing Philpott, but now it's Philpott's game the rest of the way.
I think it would be different, Chris, if like Williams was not on the roster and Philpott was there and he's trying to work hard in practice. But when you can use him, Philpott, and Millington all in the backfield, you keep just substituting those guys in and out. Sooner or later, you're going to start pounding on this defense of Montreal and have the success that you just had. The final thing, get the ball in the end zone, score some points.
Well, here's another look at the touchdown as Millington powers his way behind Terrace and Furtick for the score.
Damon Allen just counters out, and this big fullback just gets that power going. He doesn't have to go very far. But Jamie Terrace and Todd Furtick off that right side make that play happen.
Well, because of the penalty, Julio Caravetta has to kick off from his own 15. Both Caravetta and Louis Pasaglia, Simon Fraser grads, asked me to mention to all the fans in BC to get out to the Shrum Bowl next week. UBC and Simon Fraser are playing next Friday night in that annual classic. Here's Mike Pringle. And because of the penalty and because of the return, great field position. Sean Millington with the hit on Pringle. 27-yard return, but Montreal will start from the Lions side of center field.
Important for Tracy Ham to come out on the field with this offensive series and establish at least some possession drives, getting some first downs out there, running the ball inside, using Pringle and all of his talent and that big offensive line up front, then being able to throw the ball to the inside to Climby and Armstrong.
Clock running with a dozen seconds to go in the first quarter, and Ham with a wide open receiver underneath. That's Jacques Climby, and he has a first down for Montreal at the 36 with 2 seconds left. Andre Strode with the tackle, and they'll get one more play in this first quarter.
Jock Climby feeling much more at home right now, being back at the slot. At the initial part of this season and in training camp, they had him lined up as a wideout. But over the last probably 6 weeks, 7 weeks, he has moved back inside to his familiar slot back position and has been very productive.
Climby already has exceeded last year's numbers when he was a Toronto Argonaut. Here's Pringle up the middle, takes on the tackler and drives down to the 30-yard line. That was Tyrone Chapman who made the initial contact, and that's the end of the first quarter. Pretty good one, especially for the BC Lions, and they have the lead after 15 minutes. The Lions felt they could establish the running game against the Alouettes, and the first quarter statistics will bear that out.
Joe Papa, when I had a chance to talk with him, he said, look, these guys are big, they're fast, and what I have to do is, I think if I can get these 3 backs that he had, now he only has 2 with Philpott and Williams, now he just has Millington and Philpott, is to rush the ball right at Alfred Payton and right at Grant Carter to see if they can play against the rush as well as they do against the pass. Particularly Alvin Payton. I think he thinks that Alfred is more of a rusher than being able to play against the rush itself.
So we start the second quarter with the Alouettes threatening at 2nd down and 4 from the BC 30. And again, in what has been typical of the Alouette season, Tracy Ham and the offense off to a sluggish start. 5-5 on the year, the Alouettes, after losing their first 3. In fact, their first win was against BC, and this play doesn't get off. And somebody didn't hear the whistle. That was Robert Davis, who came in with a clean shot on Tracy Ham, and the whistle had blown, and everybody on the field heard it except Davis.
We talked about the all-Canadian offensive line and having the luxury of dressing other people. Davis is one of those guys. He's American. He's a backup. He plays as the nickel. The whistle's already blown. Davis sees he's got him. Now there's going to be a little scrap in there, and he's going to take Tracy down. Tracy throws a punch at him. First call's got to be against
outside,
Davis.
BC number 13. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, BC number 7. First down.
Well, Tom, Europe was offside, so the Lions were blitzing at the time. And Robert Davis goes to the sidelines. Pleading his case, but everybody in the building heard that whistle, except him. And goes to work, throwing in the flat, and it's incomplete. Intended for Joey Yock, playing the wide out spot.
Tracy again trying to stretch this defense out. He's throwing the ball to the outside a little bit more than he had. His key receiver so far this year has been Armstrong, who's 7th in the league, had 39 catches coming into the game.
Ball at the 13, 2nd and 10. Here comes the rush on Ham. He steps up as an open man. Mike Pringle will score.
Be patient and it'll finally come to you, but the discipline of the lack of that we're seeing for the BC Lions helps again on this touchdown because their defense just does not stay and play what they need to play. They let Mike Pringle float all by himself in the flat. Tracy Ham has made a living out of finding guys open like that. Makes the major out of it.
First touchdown for Mike Pringle of the 1996 season. And for Ham, that's his 7th touchdown pass. Derry Baker's joking because, well, the holder didn't come out. Well, Jock Climby is slow to come out. on that drive. Ham was 5 for 8, 54 yards and a touchdown. And so they'll move it back 5 yards.
So that little smirk on Terry Baker's face is when John comes out and goes, hey, what are you thinking of? We've got to kick this thing.
Well, he puts it through. And the Alouettes have reestablished the lead. Mike Pringle still doesn't look like the Pringle of a year ago on the ground, but he's useful out of the backfield as well, as he displayed on that last play.
Well, one of the knocks have been against him, Mike, is that Mike is not a good receiver out of the backfield. But Coach Bob Price jumped to his defense very quickly. He says he doesn't have bad hand. He just makes ugly catches.
33 catches last year for 276 yards to chip in along with that 1,791 that he added on the ground.
Yeah, he was a little busy carrying the mail rather than seeing if he could get it airmailed to him.
Well, that's misplayed by Larry Thompson back in the end zone. Scoops it up and he'll run it out. Well, he might have been wise to just give up the single at that point because the Lions are backed up at their own 10-yard line. Wayne Provo led the surge downfield tomorrow. Doug Flutie and the Toronto Argonauts will try to extend their win streak to 9 as they play host to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And again, if you've missed it, Michael O'Shea signing with the Argos and will be involved in specialty teams, and I know the folks in Hamilton are really sore about that.
Well, the folks definitely, but I can guarantee you that Coach Don Southern was very much looking forward to Michael O'Shea being part of the Ticats in 1996.
I thought he had that Tiger Cat logo tattooed on him somewhere, and it's going to look different seeing Michael O'Shea in an Argo uniform. And I know, talking to some of the Lions, the question of the morning was salary cap. What salary cap?
That may be the case. The fact of the matter is, I think Don Matthews and what he's going to do in Toronto, he wants to build a winner, and he knows that Michael O'Shea is a key part as a Canadian linebacker. He doesn't have any really speedy wide receivers right now that can go out and get the ball done other than Cunningham. He needs to have one other guy that can complement him.
2nd and 5. Allen looking downfield, looking for Alford, and they continue the battle. Irv Smith and Alford, and Alford's won another duel because Smith interfered with him at the 50-yard line. Tell you what, nobody threw Irv Smith's way last year because it just wasn't going to bear any fruit. But Ted Alford, who's been shaken up on the play and heads off, is making some inroads.
That's Montreal number 21. First down.
That's 3 challenges. The long pass down the field. Then he got Irv Smith to kick him one time, gets a roughing penalty, and now he gets a pass interference call that creates a good situation. And here's that big Canadian offensive line up front. Take a look how they stand their ground and give Damon Allen plenty of time and vision to look downfield. Ball clearly released before anybody can get in touch with him, put any pressure on him.
First down, and Pimiskern has the catch, and that'll be close to another first down for the BC Lions.
Only his 4th catch of the season, but they thought, and Joe Paopao said, let's get to that short passing game, a quick release, slow down this defense a little bit, then that would allow a few things to happen. One being, if they're slow getting off the ball, this offensive line can get up into their chest, get in their face, and Corey Philpott and Sean Millington can have some success running the ball.
Got Frank Pimiskern on offense and Mark Pimiskern playing backup on defense and specialty teams. And there's a first down for BC as Sean Millington crashed through. Scott Miller brought him to the turf, but they'll move the yardsticks for the Lions. Just to finish the thought, you know, the Argos have lost 4 different Canadians, and O'Shea is needed, but when you look down the list of injured bodies in Hamilton, you know where there was even a greater need, and it has to be a real deflating fact that the leader of the Hamilton Tiger Cats for the last couple of years is going to be wearing blue this week. Larry Thompson, the intended receiver, and a flag down at the line of scrimmage. Douglas Kraft was covering Thompson. And that's Grant Carter with the helmet off on the limp.
I think he's a little upset of the cut block that he may have had. Chop block, exactly what I thought. But you're right, hey, Chris, and again, we're going to finish this statement again about Toronto losing some key people as far as Canadians, Pierre Verchewal being one of them. But when you look at Don Southern and Hamilton, he's lost not only Matt Dunnigan, leader of quarterback, he's lost the second string guy and the third string guy, two wide receivers.
BC number 58. Repeat, first down.
That's Craig Hendrickson called. And so these two teams on course to continue their status as the most penalized teams in the CFL.
Take a look at the block here. Hendrickson just goes and he just makes a cut block on the outside. Nothing, that doesn't look like anything wrong to me on that play. If that was the call against Hendrickson, they did him an injustice there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it wasn't, as you saw Carter on the limp, if it wasn't on the other side of the field and they gave us the wrong number. Here's Allen, hit after he delivered the football, and Douglas Kraft has the interception. A flag flies after Kraft is taken to the turf.
I think what we're going to have, it's after the penalty, after the play, you're going to have Mike Trevathan very uncharacteristically come over and takes a shot, and I think he's going to get a roughing penalty after the play.
Second interception of the year for Kraft.
BC number 77. First down.
Yep, Trevathan after Sean Millington had wrestled Douglas Kraft to the ground. And Joe Paopao is calling his troops over to try and get them recomposed. We're just over 4 minutes into the second quarter here at Olympic Stadium.
Here's the reason. Watch Grant Carter. He's right here. He's going to come in. But watch Carl Coulter. Watch his legs as he whips out on the play. The stunt's coming inside. Now watch the right leg, left leg start to flip out. Boom, he swings it around. Oh, he catches Grant Carter right in the thigh or the knee, and that's why he was hopping around after the play. The penalty was called on somebody else, but that's why Carter was having some problems.
First down give to Pringle, and again, the yardage tough for Mike Pringle. Dave Chaters is there, and BC Lions have done a good job defensively on last year's leading rusher in the Canadian Football League. Lions on the season are 5th against the run, and Montreal coming into the game the leading rushing team in the league. They've averaged 145 yards a game.
A lot of pressure on Dave Chaters. He's lost a couple of his buddies to free agency this year. One of them playing on the other side, Doug Peterson, then Andrew Stewart went to Toronto also.
Tracy Ham airing it out, looking for Joey Yock, who'd gotten in behind the receiver, but Ham overthrowing the football. And that brings up 3rd and 9.
You were bringing up that picture at the opening, Chris, but when I look at Joey Yock, I tell you, the first time that I saw him in 1975, his dad was the coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, and he was just about running around in diapers. So my back starts to hurt quite a bit when I see these kids grow up. They're no kids anymore. They're just grown men getting the job done.
Baker's kick bouncing it around and taking a pretty good Montreal hop down the sidelines before it finally goes out at the 13. 45-yard punt as we join Scott.
All right, Chris, you mentioned this at the top of the telecast. Legend has it the Alouettes drove staples through their shoes to beat the Eskimos in the Ice Bowl, that great Grey Cup game here in 1977. But Bob Geary, longtime manager of the Owls, is here to say that the Alouettes won that game on superior athletic ability. Right, Bob?
Scott, I've been waiting 20 years for this opportunity to tell Kipley that we really did win them by superiority. We had personnel. We beat the hell out of them. We didn't beat them. We beat the hell out of them. And the door was never open because it never could be open.
And so our middle linebacker let them down?
Well, he was part of it. I think the score was 44-7 or something like that.
Okay. All right, Bob, thanks for your time. Nice to relive that memory.
Thank you, Scott. My pleasure.
Come on, Mr. Gary. Take one of those pills. It was 41-6, and I hope those doors are closed because you won't be able to get out. I'm going to come find you after this game.
Oh, I enjoyed that little blast from the past.
Oh, I bet you did. Every time that you see me, you give that little chikung with the Staples.
You're the only guy that ever brought up the Staples story. I have not seen
the nation knew the Staples story. The only people that didn't were actually the Alouettes at that time.
No visual evidence of a shoe with Staples that I've seen yet. If you could provide the evidence, then we might believe it. Nice to be back at the Big O, huh?
I tell you what, isn't it fun? It's nice to be back with you again. Haven't you got another hockey game to go do?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Okay.
Here's Sean Millington, first down carry, and oh, look at Millington break a couple of tackles. He is alone and got it to the 30. Got 5 more than he probably should have. He just ran right out of the arms of a former teammate, Doug Peterson.
Sean doesn't get nearly the credit that he should, because he is the lead blocker in a lot of cases of why a guy like Corey Philpott is able to rush for 22 touchdowns, or rush for the touchdowns that he did last year, 22 in total. But look at the power, look at the strength, just not giving up. Guys trying to arm tackle this guy. You better not arm tackle him. You better get your helmet, your neck, your back, everything into it and drive him backwards, and that's a hard thing to ask for.
2nd and 3, and Allen will go to the air, flares it out there, and there's Matt Clark, and stripped of the football, which goes out of bounds, but Clark should have enough for a first down. Well, Matt Clark much more comfortable inside, started the year on the outside because of an injury, and they felt that he wouldn't have as much of the rough going outside, but back in his familiar slot position.
Good quick move to the outside of Charlie Gordon. Gordon going to give him a little cushion and then react up to it, but not before Matt Clark makes the reception and the first down. This guy's a tremendous athlete. I mean, back in 1991, 79 catches, 1,530 yards, 10 touchdowns, was the best record for a first-year player. Broke an old BC Lion guy by the name of Mervyn Fernandez. Swervin Mervyn, as he likes to be known.
7:40 to go, first half. Damon Allen on first down, guns it out, and did he hang on? That's an incredible catch if he did, and Matt Clark did make the grab. Went up in front of Harold Nash, and I was surprised that when he hit the turf, he was able to keep that ball in his hands.
Well, Nash getting the start in place of Watson, as we said, but just check out the great concentration and skill that this young receiver possesses. Pushes off. Now he's going to come back to the ball. Now he's got to go up high. Stone back to the inside. Loses it one time, but still finds an area to pick it up and bring it down for another reception. And it's just 2nd and about 1.
See how Damon Allen approaches this. Well, he'll stick to the ground, and he'll give it to Sean Millington. And Millington will carry more tacklers to the 52-yard line. Jason Bryant was hanging on that time. And Millington moves the sticks. Well, you know, this league this season, kept more than we've noticed in the last few years, has gotten away from that power Canadian fullback, and Sean Millington is the best of that breed.
Well, he is one of those kind of guys. The thing is, he still possesses great speed. He's powerful inside, a good blocker, and just when you think you're going to have the defense concentrating on a guy like Philpott, a guy like Damon Allen will dump him a little screen pass or swing it out to him, and he picks up 50 or 60 yards.
Well, that stat there indicates that Joe Paopau's game plan is working beautifully. Here's a completion to Ted Alford on the near side this time. Alford working that time against Douglas Kraft. And Alford has been a useful weapon for Joe Paopau so far this afternoon.
Well, as soon as Joe Paopau saw Ronald Williams get ejected out of the game, and then when Alford went down, Joe's got to walk over there and suddenly say, listen, I need you. We need you at the wideout, and what you're doing right now, you're having some success. Get back out there and let's make it work again for us.
Well, let's face it, a lot of people were wondering about Paopau, and the Lions got off to the slow start, but you put Damon Allen into this offense, and the coach looks pretty good all of a sudden. Corey Philpott up the middle. On 2nd and 2, Tracy Gravely the tackle, and it doesn't look like Philpott got to the first down stick, which is about the 48, so he's a yard shy on 3rd down. And I think I can call this play.
All right, call it for me.
I'd give the ball to 25, wouldn't you?
That's exactly right. And I wouldn't counter out. I wouldn't do anything fancy. Nothing that's slow developing. I would just stand at just a straight dive play, straight ahead, power off of this offensive line.
Just a lone setback, and not much doubt about who'd get the call or the end result. Sean Millington again moves the yardsticks down to the 43. He didn't just get the one he needed, he got 4 or 5.
Great explosion off that offensive line, centered right now by Carl Coulter, who came over from Toronto. Jamie Terrace and Mantica on the guards, Furtick and Hendrickson. As I said, they played the last 5 games together, 4 games together. and they are really a solid unit up front for this BC offense.
Lions rolling on the ground. Philpott this time the lone setback. Play action pass, and Damon Allen looking out in the flat and misfiring to the intended receiver, Larry Thompson, and Alfred Payton finally got a chance to bear in on quarterback Damon Allen. You know what I find interesting, Kep, is we mentioned that Montreal is number 8 against the run. Last year in Baltimore, they were the second best team against the run. They had trouble defending against the pass.
Take a look as Damon Allen's going to come out. Takes a lot of time. That offensive line doing a pretty good job of holding him out, but sooner or later Damon's got to get rid of the ball a little quicker, or else he's going to take a few more hits like that, and they certainly don't need to lose him due to a hit on a blitz or either great pressure.
2nd and 10, and Allen hit again and driven to the turf, and there he is doing his dance. Alfred Payton with his first sack of the game. 18 last year for Alfred.
First sack of this game, 2nd for the season, working one-on-one against Hendrickson. But just look how he slaps Hendrickson away, comes to the inside. Good pass rush as he got the hands up into his face. Let's look again. Makes the step upside, gets Hendrickson to make a move, opens the floodgates to the inside. Damon makes a short setup, and that allowed Alfred Payton to come back inside.
Vintage Alfred Payton in his 2nd game back with this franchise, and in Montreal he'll just give a real shot from the arm to the entire defense. It's a pretty good week of transactions for Montreal when you add Pringle and Payton in the same week. Dexter Dawson run out of bounds with 3 minutes and 35 seconds to go in the first half at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Alfred savoring the sack. Craig Hendrickson calling for help.
Take a look at the sacks in the career, and Hendrickson getting an opportunity since coming over from the Edmonton Eskimos. It's a one-on-one matchup. Alfred does that great speed rush like he's going to get outside, get Hendrickson to open up the hips just a little bit. Then he gives him a little bat and slats back inside, able to make that sack on Damon Allen.
And we'll be watching that matchup throughout the rest of the afternoon. Montreal has the football, first down at the 21, and there's Dexter Dawson with the catch, and he is nailed immediately. Maurice Kelly stepping up and dropping Dawson at the line of scrimmage, and maybe for a loss of a yard. No, they're going to give him the 21, so back at the initial line of scrimmage.
Maurice Kelly getting a chance with the BC Lions. 94, he was in Vegas. 95 in Toronto, but he does a great job, quick explosion to get up to avoid the block of Jock Climbing and makes the tackle inside. Even if he wasn't going to make that tackle, he had great position on the outside.
2nd and 10, and Ham throwing behind Jock Climbing, and a quick 2 and out for Montreal. Tyrone Chapman had turned the heat up on Tracy Ham. 2:48 to go, first half at the Big O. The football in excellent field position as Terry Baker puts his foot into it, and that's Mike Trevathan picking up a block and trying to get over midfield. Does, and now Trevathan outside to the Montreal 50. Sean Marriott getting involved with one of the Als after the tackle as we join Scott.
Durrell will join us from Ottawa. Hopefully, I'll start again because I'm not sure you caught all that. In the BF Goodrich TA halftime report, Jim Durrell joins us from Ottawa to hopefully give us a sense of what chance the Riders have of staying in business past Monday. 2 days to go for that team. They need to raise $1.6 million, kind of makes your mortgage payments seem insignificant. And we'll see what kind of standard the current Alouettes are trying to live up to. That would be the standard set by this team in the late 70s before things unraveled here in Montreal in the 80s. Chris, that's on the BF Goodrich TA halftime report.
I'm looking forward to that good old days. Carl Cornell, Tom Cousineau, Chuck Zapek, all those great linebackers in Montreal. That's going to be fun, eh, Kep?
Well, I mean, that was it. Those were great linebackers in their day, and then an era came in, then I came in, and then now you see the guys like the Willie Plesses, and then you get to see the Givens, you get to see the Michael O'Shea's. Things change. You know, not like you play-by-play guys. You're just the same every game. Put a tape in, call the game.
Offside, BC number 80, beat first down.
Ted Alford a little anxious on the far side, and that negates a catch for his running mate, Larry Thompson, on the other side of the field. Well, of course, we're kibitzing because back in the late 70s, Montreal, Edmonton, that's as good as a rivalry got.
It's every bit of, you know, Toronto, Hamilton, Edmonton, Calgary, Montreal, Edmonton was the defense and big teams that played solid defense and great offensive personnel.
Look at Sean Millington. He even bounces his teammates out of the way to get an extra yard or two. Millington on that center screen gets it down to the 44-yard line, so it's a pickup of 11, and it will be 2nd and 4. Spencer McLennan and Doug Peterson, a couple of former Lions, combining on the tackle. And in that Montreal defense, there are 5 former Lions.
Millington is so effective because all of these linebackers are trying to get out, to get underneath guys like Clark and Trevathan, and then all he does is find a little crease, a little light, slides through, Damon Allen dumps it to him. He makes something big happen out of nothing.
2nd and 4, Corey Philpott exploding through the hole, down to the 36. That's a first down. Tracy Gravely the tackle, but Philpott looks like he's energized after missing a couple of games, and the Lions got a bit of a break. They had the 4 games in 16 days, but coming off a win over Winnipeg and a little extra time to get ready for this game, looked fresh.
Good block downfield. They're taking a good crack at running it. Grant Carter, and then big number 68, Corey Mantica, leading the wave around to the outside. Corey Philpott finds a little crease on the inside, but they are winning the battle in the trenches for the BC Lions.
Here's Allen with time over the middle. Larry Thompson coming across, and Thompson has a big gainer, caught from behind by Irv Smith, and out of bounds at the 14. So Thompson has a big catch of 23, and the Lions are threatening to regain the lead.
A lot of misdirection plays here that what they're trying to do is set up and get this defense running. Look at Millington go from the left all the way across the formation, get somebody to chase him, and then Thompson comes all the way across the formation, and as soon as he makes that inside move against Irv Smith, he's created some separation. Damon Allen's had the time, makes the completion, keeps the drive alive.
First down at the 13. Philpott, the lone setback, gets the handoff, finds the hole, and Corey Philpott lunging down to the 7-yard line, a pickup of 6 yards on the play. And again, it's Gravely on the tackle, and he is the CFL leader in that department. And Jason Bryant has been shaken up. And Bryant in some difficulty. Just looking back to a depth chart of a year ago when Bryant was benched for a game by then coach Don Matthews because of a personal foul in a game against the BC Lions. So,
well, that's the way you establish some discipline on your ball club. But watch the big guy right here. Jamie Terrace is going to come out, lead outside, inside handoff. Philpott's just going to find and see if he can follow him all the way around to the outside. Take a look. Get behind the big guy. Good block off the corner by Matt Clark. Philpott makes the move to break to the inside. Forces Gravely to make the tackle on him, and he's very punishing.
And you saw in the right-hand corner of your screen, Bryant spinning off that play, and didn't seem like it was much more than an innocent play, but Bryant going off, a backup linebacker in Baltimore this year who has won a job. You look at this Montreal defense, another look at Bryant spinning off the play, and I don't know if his foot caught in the turf and twisted a knee.
That's exactly what it looks like, Chris. When he spun off, it looks like that right leg caught the turf and planted and stayed there, and he had his full weight on it, and his body just kept rotating.
So Chris Sangaris, a Montreal native, comes in to replace Bryant. This is the first home game for Chris Sangaris back in Montreal. 2nd and 4, and again Philpott the call straight up the middle, and Corey Philpott should have the first down. Boy, this is old-time football. This is back when you played. They're rushing the football.
They are. They actually still do this stuff. Pretty daggone good. Philpott and Pringle, two in the best in the business that can get it done. But this time, good offensive explosion off that line. Led again, Carl Coulter, there's a center. He's found new life since coming over and being released by the Toronto Argonauts. Very happy to be there, and he's got a couple of guys around him that they all get the job done for Corey Philpott.
1st and goal from the 1. Clock running, 35 seconds to go. And Mr. Millington is in for the touchdown again. Oh, that's almost automatic, and Sean Millington has his second major score of the game, his fourth on the ground this season, and make it 7 touchdowns on the year for Big 25.
You certainly wouldn't have thought coming into this game that BC would have been able to establish the rush against this Montreal defense the way that they have. But somebody forgot to tell this offense and this offensive line, and that guy particularly, along with his partner, Corey Philpott.
Well, the running game of the BC Lions has been the big story so far this afternoon. Sean Millington has been a key man with those payoff runs. He's had the key runs to make first downs in short yardage, and then twice has crashed into the end zone.
Well, in the first quarter, a few times aided by some cheap penalties and some calls, set up this opportunity for BC to score. Now Damon Allen sits back in that pocket with some great confidence. He can hand it to either one of those guys, and he's throwing the ball and mixing it across the board to his receivers.
It kind of reminds me of the Grey Cup in '94. When the Lions offensive line kept going back, they got off to a slow start, and they said, you know, we can establish the run. Let's keep pounding it on the ground. And in the second half of that game, Sean Millington went to work, and Corey Philpott, and they ran their way to a Grey Cup title.
Well, as I said earlier, I think Joe Paopao felt that he was going to be able to rush the ball and needed to be able to rush the ball against these guys. But look at the great surge. There's good penetration in the backfield. That's Alfred Payton that comes in, makes the tackle, but it just shows you the strength of a Corey Philpott. He's hit immediately, of Sean Millington, and then Millington just drug him right into the end zone.
Of course, doesn't help Montreal's cause. Grant Carter and Jason Bryant out. Sean Millington with a couple of touchdowns here today, and 134 yards rushing in this first half for the BC Lions. So they're already over their season average, and Bob Price and the Alouettes have fallen behind in this seesaw battle, 17-11. Here's a guy that wants to get his hands on the football and run a little bit against the BC defense. Mike Pringle awaits the kickoff from Julio Caravetta. Mike Pringle, first contact was made there by Maurice Kelly, slowing Pringle up and limiting the return to 16 yards. So 28 seconds remaining, first half here in Montreal. See if Tracy Ham can engineer the Alouettes into scoring position in the last half minute of this first half. After last night in Edmonton, nothing's over until they sound that gun, as we saw with Cody Ledbetter and the Edmonton Eskimos. They had a minute to play with, and they drove 75 yards for the winning touchdown against Calgary.
You use all the cliches you want, but it ain't over till it's over, baby.
I left that one for you.
I know that was the easy one.
Mike Soles doesn't hurt Montreal's cause. With a running room of his own up the middle, 22 seconds left on the clock. Robert Davis the tackle. But now you're within a completion of getting into Terry Baker range.
Well, the one thing this BC defense doesn't want to do is that they've been played so solidly in the first half is don't play soft now. Don't give up any kind of cheap points. Play this exactly the way you played the first 30 minutes of this football game. Tough and physical.
Need about 20 to get to Baker's area, and they're saying no catch. Dexter Dawson has the ball, but he was out bounds at the BC Lions bench.
Dexter Dawson getting a chance to come on the roster with an injury to the other speedster, Chris Wright, who really is, a big loss for this Montreal team. Makes a great effort as far as selling out, tries to drag the foot in, but it comes down out of bounds.
Terry Baker's longest of the year, 52 yards, so they've got to get about 20 to get it in his range. 2nd and 10, pressure on, and the screen bounces in front of Mike Pringle. Incomplete with 10 seconds remaining in the first half. Johnny Scott was bearing down on quarterback Tracy Ham.
Johnny Scott with a lot of pressure that time. That offensive line knows for a fact. Tracy's taking a look and said, hey, guys, get a good block on him first. Get a good hit first. Make that defensive lineman not think that you're going to let him go free, then slip out. Johnny Scott came scot-free, as we should say, and got right into Tracy's hand, face. Well, I could try to say that. Let's put it that way.
Baker booming one, and Larry Thompson from his 14. And he's taken down on what should be the final play of the first half. Two teams exchanging the lead a number of times in the opening 30 minutes of football here at the Olympic Stadium. And the big story, the running game of the BC Lions. Sean Millington with a pair of touchdowns. 17-11 Lions at the half.
30 minutes complete here at Olympic Stadium, and the Lions have ridden the running game to a 6-point lead. Welcome now to the BF Goodrich TA halftime report. When league governors cut off funding to the Ottawa Rough Riders 2 weeks ago, it looked hopeless for the CFL in the nation's capital, but now with 2 days to go before a final decision on the Riders is made, there is at least hope. It began with a near sellout of Frank Clair Stadium for Ottawa's game with Montreal last week. Pumped and psyched, the Riders won. If this was going to be their last game, they were going to go out in style. Wednesday, Riders held a ticket rally at Lansdowne. Fans lined up 10 deep to buy. Jim Durrell's the team president. He'll know in less than 48 hours if the Riders have life, and Durrell spoke to us from Ottawa earlier today. Jim, your firmly stated goals of 2 weeks ago called for ticket sales of $40,000, $150,000 in corporate sponsorships, and $750,000 in equity. With less than 48 hours to go, where do you stand?
Right now, Scott, we just passed through the 31,000 mark, and I would hope by the end of the day, if our sales continue as they have, we'll be getting close to 35,000. So I'm delighted with what's happening there. Our corporate sponsorships is looking very, very good. I believe that we can not only equal but surpass the objective. And in terms of the investors, I have to tell you that that report goes first to the league governors.
Well, to keep the heat on in ticket sales, it wouldn't make any sense to introduce an equity stakeholder until Monday, if you had one. Is there any chance you'll march out as savior on Monday?
I can assure you I won't be marching out as savior by Monday.
No one on the hook right now?
Well, it's not a matter of being on the hook. It's a fairly complicated process, Scott, where you've got an existing owner. We have to essentially create a new ownership structure, and it's not something that even if the White Knight in shining armor came forward, that you could possibly do it by then. It's, as I say, it's a complicated structure. It's something that we'll report to the governors, but I have not tried to mislead anybody. There isn't anybody there at this time.
Jim, Monday is a virtually impossible deadline to meet all your goals. Is your best chance now to get the governors to extend the deadline if, in fact, you think you can even meet the quotas?
Well, I'll tell you, what we're doing right now, just left the office and I'm going back, we're running what is affectionately called our cash flows. And we're looking at our projected revenues versus our known expenses to the end of the season, knowing what sales we've got, knowing the incredible affection and outpouring of support we've had in the community, looking at our corporate sponsorships. And so those are the things that really we'll be able to do and report to the governors, and it is a short time frame.
Jim, I thank you for your time. Best of luck.
Thanks, Scott.
Riders' next home game is against Hamilton, but before that they travel to Saskatchewan to play the Green Riders, and wouldn't that be the most enjoyable road trip in franchise history? After that, Riders at home to Hamilton on September 22nd, the game they say they must sell out, and here's how you can get tickets. Here at Olympic Stadium, the BC Lions lead. The BF Goodrich TA halftime report will continue. Go the inspired BC Lions, who obviously understand the importance of this game, lead at the half. Time was the CFL had its share of this hockey-driven market. The Alouettes were once huge. It's a real challenge for the reborn Owls to even come close to that status. A stylized buzzer decorates Alouette helmets today. In the 50s, it was a much simpler decal on Sam Etcheverry's helmet. The rifle still holds 8 Alouette quarterback records. Etcheverry and Hal Patterson were one of the CFL's most lethal passing combinations. The 70s were also glory years for the Owls. Fans jammed Olympic Stadium, 60,000 strong, to watch teams coached by Marv Levy. The players were major stars, from Canadian linebacker Wally Buono
to Johnny Rogers, the ordinary superstar, to kicker Don Sweet, who booted 6 field goals in the '77 Grey Cup game, to quarterback Joe Barnes, who loved throwing, to Peter Della-Riva, the imposing tight end. The Alouettes got to the Grey Cup game 6 times in the '70s and won it 3. In the '80s, something went horribly wrong, something called fan apathy. They stopped coming, and the team stopped winning. A name change didn't help. The franchise was on a slide that didn't stop until it died on the eve of the '87 season. Enter a successful team with virtually no tradition. The Baltimore Stallions, a product of ill-fated American expansion. Jim Spiros' team won the Grey Cup in its 2nd year, just in time to be forced out of Baltimore, and Montreal is where it landed.
I think the fan reaction of the team is going to depend a lot on what they do on the field. I mean, they're 5-5 so far. That's a half-decent start. But I think, you know, if the team wants to fill up the stadium and get the place rocking like it used to in the 1970s and the 80s, they're going to have to get on a roll and, you know, challenge for the Eastern Crown.
And what about the fans who pay the freight?
We're glad the Alouettes are back, and it's great for business.
I think the Alouettes are great for Montreal.
I hope the Alouettes are going to go all the way, and we need them at the Grey Cup this year, right now, because next year they're going to be the best again.
There is room for a team that's going to come in here and do well. I think the fans like a winner, you know, whether it's football, baseball, or hockey. If this football team's going to be the winning team for the city, then they'll get the fan support. But, you know, they're going to have to win.
Well, if winning will ensure the future of the Alouettes, then the team's got some work to do in the second half of this game. Here are Chris and Dan. Kep, regardless of the challenge facing these reborn Owls, it is great to see the CFL back in Montreal.
Well, it really is. This is a team that's deep in tradition. The city is deep in tradition. The Habs are here. And back in the 70s, it was big. There's 60,000 people in this stadium. It's just a matter that these guys out here have to realize they weren't born, a lot of them, when that tradition was going on. They need to get informed about it, and they can make it happen here.
Chris, first half of this game featured, as we thought it might, a track meet conducted by the BC Lions.
Yes, it was exclusively BC, really. We thought it'd be a good running matchup between these two, but look at the numbers. BC has shut down Mike Pringle, at least on the ground, although he did have an impact through the air, but it was all Lions rushing. But here's the first touchdown for Montreal.
Well, it's just a miscue in the secondary of the BC Lions. They've been playing undisciplined football, and again, this is reflective of what happens here. Forget your guy, leave Mike Pringle wide open, touchdown.
But the story of the first half, BC's running game.
Well, the guys up front are just getting the job done. Corey Mantica, everybody, Philpott, Millington. Here is a shot that you can see. Philpott does an excellent job. The defense of Montreal just doesn't know who to key on.
And get it down close, and you know who they'll call upon.
The big horse is going to take it. The big studs up front are going to get off that ball and make something happen.
134 yards rushing in the first half for BC. That's already over their season average per game. And they lost Ronald Williams, or it could have been worse, but he was kicked out in the first half. It'll be interesting to see if they can sustain that running game in the second half.
Joe Paopao told us yesterday the fastest way to demoralize your opponent is to run the ball successfully. Lions lead for the first half here at the Big O, and that's the BF Goodrich TA halftime report.
The CFL on CBC. Brought to you by BF Goodrich. Show them your true colors.
Welcome back to Olympic Stadium, ready for the second half of this game. Terry Baker kicking it off to the BC Lions, who have the lead by 6, and it's number 6, Corey Philpott. And look at the speed and acceleration of Philpott, and it's a good thing somebody got an arm on him. It was Tony Bailey slowing his progress, and 6-point lead, but lopsided statistics in favor of the Lions.
Well, it goes to show you that defense can keep you in the ball games no matter what stats are, and the old cliche of stats are for losers. And with that kind of stats that being performed by the BC Lions, they still only have a lead, as you said, by 6 points, Chris.
Yep. We've talked a lot about the running game of BC, but equally important at this point is the lack of offense by the Montreal Alouettes. First play, second half for Damon Allen, and he has an open receiver. That's Alford. Spun down at the 50-yard line, but Ted Alford has the catch. Paul Randolph, the middle linebacker, came across. And here's how Damon has tossed the football around, and Matt Clark had a good first half, but Alford did too.
It's an excellent way of he's dispersing it across the field. He's not giving this Montreal defense any chance to really key up on one particular guy to double up so you can take that guy away. He's mixing it up very well, and they're having some success.
Well, Stephen Reed is in for Grant Carter, who was shaken up in that first half. And here's Philpott going outside, has some room, broke a tackle down to the 40. That's 10 more yards for the rushing totals of Philpott and the Lions. Chris Sangaris and Spencer McLennan on the stop. Corey Philpott heating up again. That's good news for Lions fans.
So they like to see this guy. I mean, this is a quality player. He loves to touch ball, and he is exciting to watch. He's got a great explosion, great power, and he can just turn and change directions on a dime.
He had a 3-touchdown game last year in one matchup against Baltimore. Coming off turf toe and a mysterious rash that has plagued him this season. And now Millington crashing down to the 36. That's 4 more. Doug Peterson tackling Sean Millington. We haven't seen Damon Allen running, and I wonder if he's under instructions from Joe Paopao to let the running backs carry the mail.
Little G block out with number 68. That's Corey Mantica against Reed. Reed does a good job facing up to the block, then falling back into the play. Makes a good challenge when he's going to get tested because he's taking Grant Carter's place. They thought they can run against Carter. What do you think they can do against Reed?
Stephen Reed, native of Merritt, BC, anxious to play well against the Lions. Here's that trademark play to Sean Millington, the screen for the second time today. And he thunders down to the 16-yard line. That's a pickup of 22. And Millington and the offense hasn't missed a step.
This is exactly what I was talking about. They run the ball inside. You just about, when you think about it, you don't give him any kind of opportunity. Sean Millington does a good job of getting the ball out. All he has to do is slide up underneath, takes the little swing pass, a little screen, then he makes a big play out of something that looked absolutely like nothing.
You sure this is a 2-8 team? Nice fake to Philpott. One-on-one. Reed against Allen, who gets outside. Open territory. Damon Allen to the corner, but there is a flag down. A touchdown signaled. Damon's going to have a little celebration, but hold on. Let's find out what the call is.
Illegal contact on an eligible receiver in Montreal, number 21. Decline.
Touchdown, BC. Irv Smith called on the illegal contact, but Damon Allen picked his spots for his first big run, and he scampers into the end zone for the touchdown.
Does a great job. He wants to do the fake inside, then he gets outside all by himself. The big thing they've done is somehow, between Alfred and a couple of the other receivers, they have taken Irv Smith off of his game today and got him concentrating more on trying to take somebody's head off out there.
You know, the one thing, you keep going game after game, nobody throws your way, and all of a sudden you're challenged, and Irv Smith's had trouble shifting gears today, it would appear. Damon Allen, no problem moving it into high gear early in this second half, and it's 24-11 BC.
What he did so good there was you could see he gets head up, and Stephon Reed does a good job, but he doesn't stay outside of Damon Allen. He allows Damon to get head up, gives him a two-way go, and Damon has great acceleration of speed, able to turn the corner, shift it into second gear, and get around the outside and get it into the end zone for the major.
I was worried he was headed for the bus and out of here, but Damon Allen impressive again this afternoon for the BC Lions, who are rebounding after a horrendous start to the season. But I know, talking to some of the veterans like Bisaglia and Caravetta earlier today, they feel it's a big game. Hamilton, Winnipeg tomorrow. They're watching that because with the Tiger Cats having trouble and injury plagued right now, they can get right back in the race. Saskatchewan's got a tough game tomorrow against the Toronto Argonauts, so they string some wins together, beating Winnipeg last time out. They can get right back into the playoff hunt. Mike Pringle across the 30. And Pimiskern leading the tacklers. Mark Pimiskern, who leads in specialty team tackles in the CFL. 23-yard return for Mike Pringle.
Chris, I think here's who is going to be crucial for Tracy. He's had a lot of tendency in his passing history that he's not a very patient quarterback, and he wants to take it deep, and he wants to get that 7 points back and even up this score and at least get it a little bit closer quickly. This BC defense is not going to give him that kind of opportunity, so he has to be contented on having some possession drives and eat up some of the clock, but at least move the ball down the field, keep it in his hands.
First down at the 34. And a gift to Michael Souls, who has not carried the football a whole lot today. And the former Edmonton Eskimo out to the 40-yard line. Tyrone Rogers, the tackle, 6-yard pickup for Souls. And I had a question for you. You look at Pringle's numbers last week against Ottawa in this first half, and you wonder, is Mike Pringle having an adjustment problem to returning to the CFL, or is this offensive line not as powerful as at opening the holes as they were last year in Baltimore? Pressure on Ham, who delivers over the middle, incomplete. Joey Yock unable to squeeze the football.
I think to answer your question very quickly, Chris, he just came into camp, had one game. That's like having a training camp for a couple of weeks. He's still trying to get to know some of these guys, get familiar with this offense. But you are right. This offensive line is not the same offensive line that he ran behind last year when he had 5 American horses up front in Baltimore.
And even the guys that are still there, you look at Withycombe coming back after being out 5 weeks with an elbow problem. Their starting center, Nick Subas, is hurt today. Terry Baker lofting that one downfield. And Larry Thompson on the return. And he's up to the 28-yard line.
Grey Cup champions as the Baltimore Stallions. They hoisted the cup in Regina after beating Calgary and almost immediately began a nomadic trek looking for a new home, which turned out to be Montreal. 14 members of last year's team remain, including key players like Ham, Pringle, Payton. Now the offensive line is for the most part intact. How good were the Stallions? Well, 3 of them, Sharp or Danish, Carlos Huerta, and O.J. Brigance, have all caught on with NFL teams, Chris.
It was a powerhouse team. They're missing on the defense O.J. Brigance, Matt Goodwin, Gerald Bayless. So those are 3 all-stars that they don't have in the lineup. Here's Millington, and Sean Millington is up to the 34-yard line. 6 more yards for Millington. He has 38 in the game and 33 yards receiving.
And here's what you don't want to see right now. Sean Millington coming off, hobbling off, but you've always, more importantly, Ronald Williams has been thrown out, ejected out of the ball game. You don't have anybody else up back there, so Paul Blackwood would be the guy that would come in, but not the top 3 guys that you wanted.
Well, he had that terrible knee injury last year that ended his season 7 games in, so you hold your breath when you see the big guy going off like that. Allen over the middle, incomplete on 2nd and 4.
Ball tipped at the line of scrimmage. I think Scott Miller was able to get his hands up, tip that ball, knock it off course.
3rd down BC. Lions with a 13-point lead. Well, Damon Allen threw 1 interception in the first half, but that's another area of improvement for the Lions. That's the first turnover in 3 games for BC, so that has also combined to help turn their fortunes around.
Well, since coming to the BC Lions, Damon has only, including today, has only thrown 7 interceptions.
Great kick by Pisaglia. Dexter Dawson back to his 26. And Dawson found a hole and is up to the 45. Tyrone Chapman with the tackle, 50-yard punt, but Dawson brings it back 20. Well, Sean Millington on the sidelines, and it doesn't look as serious as first indicated, but I'm sure Scott Oak is going to bring us up to date shortly on the status of a hobbling Sean Millington. Tracy Ham trying to kickstart this offense. He's 1 for 6 in his last 6 possessions, and this is Mike Pringle at his best. Oh, we've been waiting for this. Touchdown, Pringle. He's back in the CFL. 64-yard touchdown for Pringle.
You just can't afford ever to go to sleep defensively against a team like this with this kind of people in the backfield. Great pull. Now watch the snap and the pull by Whittingcomb. Comes outside. Nobody's going to touch Pringle. Good block by Whittingcomb. And then watch the acceleration and the burst of speed by Mike Pringle. That's form from 1994-95, why he was the runner-up MVP in this league last year.
Baker adds the extra point. And very quickly, Mike Pringle has reestablished the Alouettes on offense in the second half.
Nothing to it, but this is a great kind of composure and a great confidence builder for this offensive team to have. A nothing kind of play, no way that Mike Pringle was going to be stopped from getting in the end zone on that play.
Shut down in the first half, but exploding for 64 yards here. Nice efficient drive, one play, and Pringle got it done.
Kind of like the production from that point of view.
Bob Price had his team in a little longer in that halftime. They came out a couple of minutes after the Lions. Wondered if he had some words for his troops. Pringle now 6 carries, 67 yards. So again, 5 for 3 at the half. He's changed that all around, and a catch for 13 yards and a touchdown. So like Millington of the Lions, Mike Pringle has 2 major scores in the game. Ball took a funny hop, and now Philpott winding up. Good downfield coverage by an energized specialty teams for Montreal. And here's how the scoring went. First possession for the Alouettes. They got a field goal. First possession for the BC Lions, and Louis Pasaglia got one. There was a single point, 64 yards, and then Sean Millington, a 1-yard plunge, put BC ahead. Montreal regained the lead. However, on the touchdown pass from Ham to Pringle, and then back came the Lions to regain the lead. The second touchdown for Sean Millington. And in the third quarter, Damon Allen, the 15-yard touchdown run, 13-point lead, but then Mike Pringle has answered back, 64-yard touchdown. And we've got another injured Alouette, and there's some bad news heaping up here, Kep. We're told Grant Carter will not be back, knee injury. Jason Bryant, he will not be back because of an elbow problem. And so they've lost 2 starters there.
2 on the outside. It has been a tough year this year for injuries in the CFL. All teams are suffering. And I can't see, but it looks like it's number 37. I don't know if that's Provost or not. And I thought he was the one that was on the tackle. Now watch as Corey Philpott comes in just in the middle of your screen. There's Provost, makes the tackle, but you see the right knee? It hits, and when it plants on that turf, and then it folds over and it collapses on top of it. Take a look just to the right of your screen here. Yep. There goes the right leg right down on the hash mark. Now watch the collapse. Now he gets that plus another one of his partners on top of him. There's some extra weight on that. The ankle flips over and rolls quite quickly. You'd hate to guess what could be the problem, but he's actually running off under his own speed, so that's great to see.
Chris, quick update on Sean Millington. He's not hurt in any way. What happened was the ankle brace that he's been wearing on his left ankle for about a month now broke on him, so they retaped it and sent it back out. What hurt him more than anything was to watch Mike Pringle scamper 64 yards for the major to get the Alouettes back in this game.
It's good to see him back there. Damon Allen under pressure, and look at him weave out of traffic. And just dumps it off, incomplete. Larry Thompson was in the area, and I'm not sure Fallon didn't cross the line of scrimmage when he finally threw the football.
That's exactly what it is, Chris. I think you're going to see an illegal forward pass. Great athletic ability by this guy. Is just, when you say poetry in motion, to watch him work, to watch him scramble, he would drive you crazy. He's good on a wet field, on a fast track, on any kind. But I think he has crossed the line of scrimmage, and he tries to dump it off. It certainly wasn't grounding.
BC number 9, repeat first down.
That was the call. He was a couple of yards over the line of scrimmage. I think he was just happy to end the play after escaping the grasp of the 3 oncoming rushers wearing Montreal colors. Damon Allen with that touchdown run, we should point out, is the leading rusher all-time among quarterbacks in the CFL. So it's not just Millington and Philpott in the backfield. Allen is first, Tracy Ham is second, Jackie Parker third, and Matt Dunnigan is fifth. 4 former Eskimos in the top 5 in that quarterback rushing category. Corey Philpott stopped at the 10-yard line. Harold Nash moved up. And now Montreal's defense coming up big after the 64-yard touchdown by Pringle.
Nash is not that big of a fella at 5'8", about 180, but he does a great job. Good positioning on the outside. Good technique of making a tackle against a tough running back in Philpott.
2nd and 18. By the way, the only quarterback not a former Eskimo in that top 5, Russ Jackson, the Ottawa Rough Rider great. Allen gets outside. Might take off with it. No, he'll throw and has an open receiver over the middle, Mike Trevathan. But Trevathan will be short of the first down, and there's a late flag as the penalty totals continue to mount.
They will get unnecessary roughness against BC.
Objectionable conduct. BC number 77. 3rd down.
And these are some uncharacteristic guys that are getting some of these serious penalties. That's Trevathan out there. He's fired up for some reason.
Yeah, he got that finger in the eye in the first half, and something perhaps is continuing on from there. And that's the 12th penalty in the game. 137 yards charged against BC already. The disqualification of Ron Williams. And now Pasaglia, a yard deep in his end zone, gets set to punt. Low snap, pressure on, and Louis got it away and got hit. So a big break here for BC as Dexter Dawson is scrambling around. And finally taken to the turf, but Pasaglia is slow to get up. Got the call. Louis Fight clipped the veteran Pasaglia in the act of kicking.
Illegal block. Montreal number 1 decline. Major foul. Roughing the kicker. Montreal number 29. 1st down.
Another kind of fault with the discipline there on Montreal's team. They have them backed up. Great field position is going to be had. But Fight comes in. Bad angle when he's going to even try to, if you're thinking of blocking the punt, you got to sell yourself out in front of the kick and try to pick up the ball when it comes off the foot, not go right into the thigh of Louis. And Louis been around now. This is 21 seasons. He knows when to take it down and get the penalty.
That pirouette's got a lot of polish on it.
It really does. Kind of look like the Nureyev kind of guy who's spinning around there.
328th CFL game. The all-time leader in that category. So a reprieve for Damon Allen in the Lions offense, and the throw to Alford, who is forced out of bounds by Douglas Kraft. Almost spun off that tackle by Kraft, and that's the 4th catch for Alford in the game.
Just great production by this rookie out of Langston. Holds the school record in 1994. Caught 11 passes for 275 yards and 5 touchdowns against Northeastern.
Impressed in the Eskimo camp early last year, and the knee problem which sent him home. Didn't make this team out of camp, but hung around, and Joe Pau kept him in mind. Now there's no question about his status with the Lions. Now Corey Philpott over the 40 to the 42, and that's a 1st down for BC. 5:40 to go. 3rd quarter. And remember, following this game, the Bank of Montreal Nations Cup from Spruce Meadows. Scott Russell, Terry Leibel standing by for live coverage of that event following the football game here in Montreal. And tonight, Team Canada in action against Sweden. semifinal action of the World Cup of Hockey. Another big day on CBC Sports. There's Allen over the middle, quick hitter, and Mike Trevathan has the catch. And another first down. Boy, that roughing the kicker penalty is looming large right now as the Lions have changed the momentum back in their favor.
Allen has had great success on this quick three-step drop and letting those great receivers and Trevathan work to the inside of Nash. He's got plenty of time to throw the ball, hits it between the halfback and the safety. Trevathan knows he's going to take a shot, but picks up the first down. Joe Paopao feels the big thing was first down production is everything for this ball club today.
They're at the Montreal 52. And they slam it inside to Paul Blackwood, the reserve fullback. And Blackwood down to the 48 has 4.
Blackwood had his career touchdown last year in 1995 from Cincinnati. Just coincidentally, you know, the same school that Dave Ritchie is from when he was with the BC Lions.
As you can see there, they're over 50 yards ahead of their season average on the ground. So the Lions have really got this running game in high gear, even with the ejection of Ron Williams. Second down, 6. Allen throwing over the middle. There's a completion. That should be enough for another first down. Nice catch by Larry Thompson over the middle. They continue to work against Irv Smith, and it's not easy, but they're making some headway against Smith, and not many teams in the league can say that.
One of these crossing routes again, but you can see what kind of effect that they're having. Alfred Payton doing a good job of just looping up inside, getting up high, making Damon Allen reload that gun one more time, and then when he pulled it down, as soon as Payton's feet hit the turf, Damon was letting the pass throw.
Boy, when your running game is going, you really can chew up the clock as well. Here's Philpott bursting through, and Corey Philpott has another first down. Harold Nash finally brought him down. And Louis Fight is in agony on the bench because it was his penalty that has sustained this drive.
Inside trap play, everybody blocking down, and the guy, Jamie Terry, is going to lead it. Gets Randolph. Randolph tries to fall and slough back off inside. But you can't tackle Philpott just around the ankles and stuff. He's got strong legs, able to run through those tackles.
And now Randolph jumps, and he'll indicate that he was drawn offside. Not sure that was the case.
Offside. Montreal number 36. Still first down.
Bob Price seemed to have everything going his way. At Pringle, the 64-yard touchdown. They back up Montreal. Then the penalty, and now the offside against Randolph gives BC 1st and 5 at the Alouette 24.
Sometimes that happens, Chris. I could picture Randolph in his position. He's lost his 2 outside linebackers. He's got some two not young guys. One, Reed is young, but also Sangaris has been around for a while. But now he's trying to make something happen out there on his own, where he feels that they're just missing a little bit in that linebacking core.
Clock ran out on the Lions, but I think the clock.
We have a timeout. BC prior to the whistle. Timeout.
So the Lions use their timeout to avoid the 5-yard time count violation. And Damon Allen's going to head over to confer with Joe Paopao at the bench. You can see Chris Vargas, the backup quarterback who worked with Paopao in Edmonton a year ago.
Came over with the trade with Hendrickson to the BC Lions from Edmonton for Glenn Scribner.
2:11 remaining, third quarter. It's a 6-point BC lead, and an interesting East-West matchup. Dave Ritchie looking on, the defensive coordinator.
Just to his right, that's Grant Carter. You can see with the wrap around his knee. So his day is finished, definitely. Look for Damon Allen to try to sprint this thing out a little bit and try to run it himself. No.
Reed on that tackle. And a short gain on the play. We're told that it is a contusion on the knee of Grant Carter, and he will be able to make the trip to Calgary for next week's game, as Mike continues to look on anxiously. Next game for BC, back at home after 3 straight road games, and they'll be in tough next week against Mike O'Shea in the Toronto Argonauts. Doug Flutie going back to BC Place Stadium. Tell you what, the Argos are going to have their hands full with this team. Here's Philpott bursting over the middle, and he has another first down. Randolph again the tackle, and Corey Philpott now with another pickup of 5 yards, close to 91 yards on the game. So he's approaching 100 on the afternoon.
No trickery, nothing fancy about the way BC's getting it done. They got a break with the penalty, but then they have to move this ball up and down the field, and they're doing it in a physical nature. They are just absolutely beating the Montreal defense one-on-one in every position.
Up to 94 yards for Philpott as Allen looks into the end zone and overthrows the intended receiver, Larry Thompson. Final minute, third quarter. Montreal, by the way, you saw the stat, 1 first down. It was the 64-yard run. Otherwise, Joe Paupau's had an outstanding ball control offense throughout this game and in this third quarter.
Big concern on Bob Price's face, obviously, at this time. This defense losing some key personnel.
Big play here, 2nd and 10. Here comes the rush. Alfred Payton, and Allen gets outside. Picks up a block. Allen looking back across the field. Nobody there. And finally, David Allen brought down at the 18-yard line. So a loss of a couple, as Allen just couldn't find anybody open in the end zone. Has some words for Alfred after beating the talkative Mr. Payton outside.
Nothing like getting that guy one-on-one on the outside when he's going to break containment. He gets Doug Peterson to stop, break down just a bit. Now it's always like he's toying with him, like a cat with a big mouse or something. Peterson missing, but great pursuit from the backside by Reed. Able to snuff that out, forced Louis into a field goal situation.
Well, Louis hit a 17-yarder in the first quarter, first possession for BC. Now he'll set up from the 25. And Pasaglia good again. On the final play of the third quarter, BC had the football for 13 minutes and 31 seconds in the third quarter, and they have the lead for the Montreal Alouettes, and they just hogged the football in that third quarter. That last drive, which resulted in the 3 points from Pasaglia's field goal, was over 8.5 minutes long.
Coming up the penalty from flight on roughing Louis Pasaglia.
Here's Mike Pringle. Paul Blackwood met him with a host of other Lions up to the 40. We're going to take another timeout with the Lions up by 9 here at the Big O in Montreal. Tracy Ham trying to lead the Alouettes back again here as they fall behind by 9 points early in the fourth quarter, and that pass to Joey Yock falls incomplete. Let's check the numbers through 45 minutes of football. Look at the time of possession, and when you check the net yards, remember Mike Pringle had 64 yards on 1 romp, so that shows you how limited the Montreal offense has been today.
Go down to the bottom of those categories. Look at the time of possession for the BC Lions. It is hard for Tracy Ham or anybody to score points if you don't have the ball.
And Ham in a 1-for-7 skid and no yards on that 1 reception. He's going to put it up again, and now he has a completion. There's Jock Climbey, and the fans here at Olympic Stadium finally have something to cheer for in an aerial manner as Climbey hauls in the catch. Tom Europe, the safety, the tackle, but they move it into BC territory.
Tracy Ham puts the threat that he's going to break containment, come outside. He gets the defensive secondary to leave a couple of those receivers wide open. Climbey, the veteran, finds the open spot. Tracy finds the open receiver, turns it into a first down.
And they go to no huddle to try and sustain a little bit of momentum. Pass out there on the outside to Dexter Dawson. He's at the 50-yard line. Short gain, 4 yards on the catch by Dawson.
Tracy had to throw that ball almost 45 yards to get it out there for the 4-yard gain.
Now we've seen Tracy Ham so composed in the past. Not going to panic. Lots of time. It's only a 9-point game.
Here comes the blitz.
And he has another completion, so 3 in a row. Ham going back to jock climbing. We have yet to see Dennis Montana today. Montana, newcomer just out of the Houston Oilers camp, graduate of Concordia Stingers.
When the blitzing situation, the halfback Kelly Sims, he's given a big cushion to jock climbing. He was able to find the inside route. Tracy Ham was able to get quick release of his, get it to him, and make a big first down, keep this drive alive for the Alouettes.
First down at the 47, and Ham changing the play at the line, and now handing it off to Pringle straight up the middle. Wrapped up by Virgil Robertson and company.
This is a good situation for Tracy when he does have production on first down. Gives himself 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. It opens up a whole lot of plays in his repertoire that he can use. Sprint that ball outside, try to force the corner, break containment. If the receiver's open, fine. If not, run the ball for the first down.
Pringle was 71 yards on the afternoon. 2nd and 6, and Ham throwing, and Yacht can't hold on. Had it in his grasp for a moment, but Brandon Hamilton jarred it loose.
Great close by Hamilton on that throw. Once he saw the ball being released by Tracy Ham, makes the break, turns all the way around, does the 360, still has the speed to catch up. Then he goes in with the left arm, strips the ball away from Joey Yacht.
Hamilton's made a couple of outstanding defensive plays today, and now Baker on to attempt a 44-yard field goal. And Terry Baker puts it through. So they're back within less than a converted touchdown.
At Olympic Stadium, it's the Lions by 6 in the 4th quarter. And now an addendum to our Olympic coverage. For those of you who didn't get enough of the coach, Russ Anburn, I can't imagine that's even possible. Here he is. Russ runs the Ring 83 Boxing Club here in Montreal. But never mind boxing. What do you think of the Lions running game? Because you've got an opinion on everything.
I have an opinion on everything. I just hope the Lions survive, and so do the Alouettes, and that we keep seeing more of CFL football. Otherwise, you're out of a job.
Thank you, Coach Amber. Here's Otis Grant, by the way, world middleweight contender, one of Russ's fighters, fighting for the world title, you believe, in December against Lonnie Bradley.
Right, we went down last week to look at Bradley defend the title in Pennsylvania, and he won, so he's supposed to be my next fight, and we're looking forward to that because that's what we've worked for all these years.
Russ is counting on you to win, Otis, because he wants to make big bucks off you. All right, thank you both. Good to see you, Russ and Otis. Chris, back to you.
Tell you what, Russ is everywhere. You go to the Forum or the Molson Center, he's there. And David Allen might say the same about Alfred Payton. And the kid from Merritt, BC got in on the sack as well. Peyton has 2 today, and there's Stephen Reed, who goes back to spend the off-season in Vancouver.
Good speed rushes from both of the outside guys. Alfred Payton, that's a great way to meet at the back with the quarterback in between you. Damon Allen had nowhere to go. Those both guys upfield so quickly around the 2 tackles of the BC Lions.
Loss of 8. 2nd and 18. Damon swings outside, and down he goes again. And Kemp, I think that secondary's really turned it up a notch because Allen can't find anybody downfield.
They had their problems in the first half, particularly Irvin Smith was out getting picked on quite a bit by Alfred, but now they have really settled down, playing disciplined coverage in the secondary. Nobody for Allen to throw the ball, and that allowed a great pursuit tackle by Doug Peterson.
Reed forced the early pressure. Peterson finished Allen off. And again, you can feel the momentum swinging. This is a game that's had 5 lead changes already. And we've got 10 minutes and 40 seconds to go here in the 4th quarter. And Montreal, with their hands on the football, would love to change the lead again. Dexter Dawson, and he really got hit hard. That's an enormous hit by Virgil Robertson, but Elford's dancing as well. Well, it's been a tough second half for graduates of St. Mary's University. We saw Dwayne Provo go down a couple of minutes ago on the Montreal side, and now Sean Marriott shaken up on the punt coverage team, and he's being helped off. Let's find out what happened to Sean.
Just came in just to the right of your screen as he comes in to try to make the tackle. Slides right past the guy, gets an arm out, but you just see where he hits the turf. And he got tripped up when he went in there. His head was already going down, like he may have got his toe caught up on the turf. And he's having a really hard time putting some weight down on that right leg.
Chance for us to mention that in the Vancouver papers today, an open letter from the BC Lions players asking for their support in the upcoming weeks. And of course, the next home game will be against Doug Flutie and the Toronto Argonauts. Next weekend, here's Ham throwing out the long pass in the flat to Dexter Dawson. And again, he threw a long way for a short gain. They're going to spot that at the 48 and give Dawson 3.
Tracy seems to be gotten away from them the game that we normally see him want to throw. Throws a lot to the inside receivers, Armstrong being one of his main targets along with Jock Climbing, but he seems to be really focused that he's going to get the ball to the outside today. If it's not there, he's going to force it there.
You know, some of the comments before the game were about him trying to go to the wideouts, and maybe he's into that mindset. Now he's got the slot back. Jock Climbing, he's drilled at midfield, but that is where he had to get for the first down. The Lions will argue the placement of the football, but Brandon Hamilton's tackle will not stop the first down for Montreal.
Jock Climbing did a good job coming up underneath the coverage. Now he's going to come back to the inside, works across, slide. Now I'm going to slide to the outside. Does a good job. He goes away from Flynn. Knows where the first down marker is. Gets nailed by Hamilton, driven back, but not before his forward progress takes him past the stick.
These guys from Queens know where they have to go.
You are a Queen graduate, aren't you?
I am indeed. And so is number 82.
Do you know where you have to go?
I'm not sure.
Ottawa, I think it is next.
There's Ham rolling out. He has an open man. That's Chris Armstrong. So just as you wondered, he goes back to the slots, first Climbing, and then his favorite receiver on the year, Chris Armstrong.
You know, I would never question Tracy Ham. I mean, he's a great athlete and a great quarterback. But what he's doing, obviously, is trying to throw that ball out there to the wideouts enough time to see if he can stretch that defense. And then when he does stretch that defense, it allows guys like that, Armstrong and Jock Climbing, to work to the zones or work man-on-man, create some cushion and get away from him and pick up some first downs.
Well, they've started to move the football in this fourth quarter. A lot of steamboats for Ham over the middle, and he has another completion to Jock Climbing. Another first down. That's a 15-yard pickup to the 25. And you know, this hurry-up offense seems to be working for them as well.
Doing a little bit because you got a double coverage underneath. You got David Mava in there as a linebacker who is one of those oversized defensive backs that comes in. Jock Climbing does a great job with his speed of creating some separation between the two. Good offensive blocking up front allowed Tracy Ham enough time to find Jock downfield.
Under 8 minutes to go, Climbing, fifth catch, 61 yards on the day. And now the Alouettes threatening. From the 24.
Here comes the blitz.
Pringle bounces it outside. In trouble, but let's see if he can get back the other way. No. Bounced for a loss back at the 30-yard line as Robert Davis moved up. And the Lions just shut off all the holes that time. Kelly Sims moving up. Good pursuit by all the secondary men.
Terrific effort that time, and they came in a halfback blitz from the outside. Tracy Ham, now I want you to take a look. Watch Tracy. Watch the effort that he's going to make after Pringle tries to come back in. Keep following him. He'll come back. There he is right there. Boom. Throws the head down, gives his body up.
And Ham just missing Chris Armstrong in the end zone, and that was so close. So Ham goes from the blocker to the more familiar role, and he didn't miss Armstrong by much. As we'll take another look. Flag down on the play first, though.
Holding, Montreal number 66. Decline.
Big Neil Fort called. They'll decline that. And it brings up third down.
Going to take it deep and take it to the house early. Chris Armstrong with 2 or 3 steps. That's a pass that Tracy Ham would surely like to have back just by about a half a step.
Armstrong nearly making the circus catch. And now Baker to try and cut this lead in half. And this one hooks wide. So Baker misses it, and that's a big one. Let's see, is Corey Philpott going to run this out? He will. Corey Philpott, and he's up in it at the 8. Well, I don't know, Kip. I think the 1 point wouldn't have hurt the Lions. Instead, they're backed up with 6.5 minutes to go, but it's still a 6-point Lion lead. Gary Baker replaying the missed field goal in his mind, and we were kind of replaying it as far as Corey Philpott's concerned. He ran back for 110 yards earlier this season for a touchdown, but you wonder here, looked like there was really only one man to beat.
Well, the coverage team and the one guy to beat was Michael Souls. The coverage team had collapsed down, and they kind of shut their engines off. Corey thought he had the speed to get outside, and had he gotten past Souls, who knows what could have happened.
But there's not a whole lot of difference between a 6-point lead and a 5-point lead, and now the Lions are backed up a bit following this game. We'll head to Calgary, Spruce Meadows, the Bank of Montreal Nations Cup. Scott Russell and Terry Leibel standing by tonight. The big game in Philadelphia. Bob Cole, Harry Neal, Ron McLean, Don Cherry bringing you all the action of Sweden and Canada in the semifinal. The winner goes to the best 2 out of 3 World Cup final. That's tonight at 8 o'clock. Mark Messier not going to play at last report because of a groin injury. Big play here, 2nd and 7 for the Lions. And Allen in the flat, incomplete. Looking for Ted Alford. And now they're going to have to kick the ball and give it back in good field position.
Louis Pasaglia over talking to Joe Paopao. Maybe they'll give up a safety here. You know, there's a thought, had a quick conversation. What do you want me to do here? You want me to punt it, or do you want me to kneel it down and we'll kick it off from the 35?
Again, 6 points, 4 points may not make a big difference. So that might be a wise call. Then they'll kick it off from the 35, and Montreal won't have the same field position. Right now, Pasaglia, if he kicks it away, will likely give Montreal the ball on the BC side of half. No, he will punt. So they'll give a vote of confidence to the defense, but look at the field position as Dawson runs it out at the 38, and that's a tough call on whether the safety is the right one, but I think Philpott's decision in hindsight doesn't look very wise. Tomorrow, the CFL on CBC. Don Whitman, James Curry, Mark Lee, Saskatchewan at Skydome to visit the red-hot Toronto Argonauts, led by Doug Flutie, and the rich get richer because Mike O'Shea is now part of that talented Argo team that's going for an all-time franchise record 9th consecutive victory. It's funny the way the time of possession is swung around in this football game. All Lions in the 3rd quarter, and Montreal making up for lost time in the 4th. Here's nice fake by Ham out to Joey Yock, and Yock's inside the 25, and he has a 3rd down for the Alouettes. Clock running, 4:45 to go.
Now it comes back, Chris, just like you say. Philpott trying to run it out. Maybe Louis should have taken a knee and kicked it out, give up the safety, get better field position. Look at this, the fake inside. He just freezes Robertson, and now he has to find Joey Yock one-on-one. Joey does a great job, good move on Brandon Hamilton.
First catch of the day for Joey Yock. Ham with time, looking to the end zone, looking for Armstrong, and he can't make the one-handed fingertip catch. Couple of close calls from Ham to Armstrong in the end zone in the last 2 series, as Armstrong got behind both Maurice Kelly and Kelly Sims.
Well, Tracy had to thread it in between the 2 defenders. He is really making a tough throw because it's an out and up pattern. But look at the throw. It's right there just to the outs of the stretched hand of Chris Armstrong. Almost made a great catch.
Tracy Ham with only 7 touchdown passes on the season, 1 in the first half to Mike Pringle out of the backfield. 2nd and 10. Rush on. Ham dumps it off, incomplete. Looking for Pringle again, but they've got BC for roughing the passer as Shelton Quarles got in late on Ham. We talked about the penalty to Lewis fight that extended a Lion drive in the 3rd quarter. This is a big one against BC.
Major foul, roughing the passer, BC number 31, first down.
Ouch.
It is amazing how well the BC defense plays, and then they want to shoot themselves right between the eyes. Tracy Ham breaks out of containment, tries to get the shoulder turn. It's a weak throw. The pass has been thrown way before Quarles even digs it, dumps his head down to make a shot on Tracy Ham. Not a smart play by the linebacker from BC.
Ball at the 11, 1st and 10. They can make a first down without scoring a touchdown. Ham in trouble. Tracy Ham escaping, throwing downfield, and it's dropped. Dexter Dawson thought he had the catch. And so did Tracy Ham. Andre Strode was blitzing on the play. Check that, Robert Davis.
Take a look at the coverage on Armstrong. He's got double coverage. Guys are just pounding him, driving him down to the turf. Away from the play. Tracy Ham had scrambled off to the offside, so they're saying it doesn't matter. He's not in the vicinity.
3:25 to go. Did Dawson make the catch?
Looks pretty good from that angle.
2nd and 10. Pressure on Ham. Unloads Souls. Michael Souls, touchdown.
What a play from Michael Souls.
I think he was watching that game between Edmonton and Calgary last night. His old buddies did it, and Michael Souls with a little extra effort to get to the end zone.
Got him fired up. The McGill graduate, the Montreal native, has got some people standing on his feet. I asked Coach about him. He says, "What are you kidding me, Souls? He's a hero in this town. I'm lucky to have him on my ball club."
A hero right now as he broke a couple of tackles down by the goal line, would not be denied. And with 2:57 remaining, Montreal has the lead. Well, if the last 3 minutes is as good as the first 57 minutes, we're in for a terrific finish. 28-27. Alouettes with the lead on a great individual effort by Michael Souls.
Red formation, what they call red, where they're going to turn back block, and then it's just a sneak. Red sneak to the fullback, Michael Souls, as he comes across. Look at the power and the determination as he slides off a couple of tacklers, gets that ball in the end zone.
2nd touchdown of the year for Souls, the 6th lead change in the game. Montreal trying to push its record above 500 at 6-5. Lions trying to string a couple of wins together here for the first time this season.
Just setting up to look like whoever has the ball last is going to win this football game.
And that's a script from last night's game at Commonwealth. Here's Corey Philpott. Maybe trying to atone for that point he did not concede up to the 30. 22-yard return after the 67-yard kickoff. And talking about redemption, Lewis Fight was the first man downfield to get a hit on Philpott.
Just from the right of your screens, you see the sneak coming through. Tracy Ham starts to come up like he's going to threaten the line of scrimmage. The defenders react to that and leave Souls alone just for a moment. Now he comes up with the play, and once he got tackled, got his first hit at about the 5-yard line. Just look at the power. Heads going down, the determination runs right through Sims. right through Kelly and gets it in for the major.
First down, give to Philpott. Just a couple, maybe 3. Remember, the Lions have lost 3 road games this year by a combined total of 6 points, and here they are with 2:47 to go, down by 1.
But a tough meeting at the first one that they had. 2 teams meeting 0-3, with the Owls coming out ahead of that one, 44-24. Different ball game tonight.
Unofficially, Corey Philpott hit 100 yards with that last carry. Second down 6 over the middle, and that's a big strike. Mike Trevathan. How many times in the last few years have we seen Trevathan with a big possession catch? Although Alfred Payton and company don't agree that that was a legal grab.
These referees have got a lot of courage, because you can see a man like that. He is not in a good mood, and he probably thinks he got held somehow. Let's take a good look at this. Payton's to the outside, gets a little bit of cloth. He gets armbarred right around the head, taken down. I think he's justified in his complaints.
First down. Allen, quick hitter, another first down catch. Ted Alford over the middle, and has he been useful at that wideout position today?
What a superstar for the BC receiving corps this afternoon. The first time that we saw Damon Allen set up with a quick 3-step drop and hit the wideout on a quick slant.
Boy, Alford's looked good. 5 catches, 80 yards. Under 2 minutes to play. First down at the BC 54. Boy, this place is rocking. Philpott. No doubt he's got 100 now, and he's got close to 6 on that carry to the 50.
Hey, Calgary, hey, Mom.
Yeah, it's
What's
been
up,
a war.
Canopolis in Ottawa? We're going to get this one.
He went to see Apocalypse Now last night to get revved up for the game. That's Dave Chaters of the Lions, and it has been a heck of a battle.
Look at how he's in the middle. It's kind of like Rambo going, hey, who are you? He says, I'm your worst nightmare, buddy.
Here's a big play, 2nd and 4, as the eyes of the linebacker Randolph tell the story. Philpott tripped up. Chris Sangaris, Tracy Gravely.
Tracy Gravely is the guy that just makes a great play on that time. Comes up, forces to the outside, submarines the lead blocker, and gets a piece of Corey Philpott.
Well, 1:17 left. It's 3rd and 4. You're out of Passaglia field goal range. 57 yards, just too much to ask for Louis. And here we go. 3rd down and 4. Short drop, he has to pull it down. Throwing incomplete, look for Alford. And Joe Powell is adamant there should have been a flag.
The player that's been victimized all day long, Irvin Smith, comes back to make a great defensive play. So the Montreal team thinks to snuff out this drive.
Well, you be the ref.
Here's the throw. It's coming inside. Now you take a look just to the right, left of your screen. The hand comes inside. The right hand's touching the back shoulder. You can call it. It's iffy. It's close.
And remember, BC took its time out in the 3rd quarter to avoid a time count violation. Well, it has been an interesting day for Irv Smith. One of the premier corners in the league, but he has the last say.
Well, he certainly does. He's a guy that, as we said, victimized on a number of patterns earlier, got a cheap penalty called on him, and but he comes back and makes the big play. He never stopped fighting today, and that's part of this Montreal team and part of their heritage here.
Lions aren't going to go down without a fight, and Kelly Sims looks like he's ready to start one. as he jaws with Joey Yock. 27 seconds to go. And Montreal is going to have to punt the football. They can run the clock 20 seconds more, but there would still be 7 left on the clock, so they'll punt it, and it will all come down to this punt return. One shot for the Lions to return the football, but they won't have time, I don't suspect, to get a playoff after this punt return.
Michael Souls turning around, talking to Terry Baker, saying, okay, hey, what's really happening here? What are we going to do?
Larry Thompson back. Man, it's all on his shoulders. Baker will let it run right down. 5 seconds left on the time clock. And they'll take the time violation.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I may be. If a time count violation takes place, isn't it a loss of down
the game
in this
clock
situation?
to 7 seconds. 7 seconds.
Yeah, they let the clock run down 22 seconds instead of 20.
Montreal number 10. Still 3rd down. Timeout. Montreal.
It's already 3rd down.
So they get the time count violation, and then they reset it again. They have a punt return. They'll be able to kick the ball away. The clock won't start until the punt is kicked. And BC has 7 seconds to make something happen.
So by the time Larry Thompson has returned this punt, in fact, he has a chance to return it, this game will be over. Hard-fought game, and the Lions controlled it for the most part. But once again, a slow-starting Alouette team gets it together in the late going, engineered by Tracy Ham. Here we go. And the downfield coverage is intense. No chance for Larry Thompson to do anything. There's the hero, Michael Souls, on special teams and with the game-winning touchdown. And the Alouettes escape with a hard-fought victory against a vastly improved BC Lion team.
Well, to come back, 2 decisions are going to haunt Joe Pau tonight. Maybe 3. Undisciplined team out there, take a lot of penalties. The run out by Corey Philpott, and the possibility of should I take a safety with Louis Passaglia.
So Montreal moves to 6-5. And it's Dave Ritchie's old team falling to 2-9. The defensive coordinator made some adjustments in that second half to shut down the running game. Let's join Scott.
All right, Chris. Well, Bob Price, BC Lions ran the ball down your throat, and you found a way. Is that pretty much the storyline?
Well, you know, it seemed to have been the storyline here a few times for us. Yeah, they got a lot of yards on us, and did some things that we just didn't do a very good job of stopping. But the guys hung in there, and we found a way to win the game.
Yeah, we can't see it because we're in the center of the field, but I think we have a replay of Michael Souls' touchdown. How did you see it from your perspective on the sidelines?
Well, he had a great second effort. Mike is that's the second time he's done that, found himself into the end zone on a big play like that, but tremendous effort.
Started the season 0-3, then you won 5 of 6. How important was it to win this one to get back on track after losing to Ottawa?
It's so important every victory. Every time we come out to play, we got to come out ready and play hard, do the best we can and win the game because it's just so vital for us.
Now, this will make the road trip to Calgary a whole lot more enjoyable. Bob, thanks for your time. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so the second consecutive single-point victory in the CFL. The Eskimos beat the Stampeders in this fashion last night, and today here at Olympic Stadium, the Alouettes beat the BC Lions 28-27 the final. We'll return in just a moment.
The CFL on CBC. Brought to you by SaskTel.
Well, the Big O was the site. The Alouettes, the winners, on the right end of a 28-27 final on Michael Soul's late touchdown. Tracy Ham had a whole lot to do with this victory as he proficiently directed the Alouettes offense in the fourth quarter when it mattered the most. Alouettes' 6th victory of the season. Trace, what did you think?
Well, I thought our defense play gave us opportunities to get back in the game. We sputtered a little there offensively, but we didn't lose our poise. We just kept doing things that we felt that was good to us. And I thought a big adjustment was us putting Armstrong out wide, and it really changed their whole perspective of what we were trying to do offensively. And Mike Pringle, I mean, when the guy goes 65 yards to ignite your offense like that, he brings a whole bunch to us, and we really was needing that kind of player.
Yeah, how about that 64-yarder by Mike Pringle, and how happy were you when you heard the Alouettes had secured his services upon his being released by the NFL?
Well, you hate to see a guy get released from his dream, which is the NFL for a lot of kids, but to have Mike in our offense has really made us a run threat right off the bat. I mean, we're a pretty good running team already, but with Mike, it just elevated our running game, and we're happy to have him. I'm happy to be playing with him again.
64-yarder was spectacular, but the payoff punch was by Michael Souls. How about that touchdown?
Well, I feel like Michael Soul has been our best player offensively the whole year. He's been so consistent for us, and for us to get him, I've played with him before, and I knew what kind of play he was, but he's really done a great job for us at fullback.
You're in a position in this city where, because of the Alouettes tradition, especially in the 70s, that you cannot ever afford to lose. Do you feel that pressure?
Well, that's every city I've been in. The CFL.
But this one, if you want the Alouettes to catch on here.
Well, I feel like we got to win our share of ball games. We got to win the ball games we're supposed to win. We can't let ball games get away. We felt like this was the ball game, we should win, and we couldn't let this one get away. I think people just want to see good football, and if we're playing good football, we're going to win our games. And the people have responded well here. I think the more we win, the better it's going to get. And you appreciate that about your people, because they want to see good football.
All right, Trace, thanks for your time. Another piece of good news is you rise above 500 at 6-5. The Alouettes win by a single point over the BC Lions. 28-27, the final at Olympic Stadium. Montreal goes to 6-5. Coming up in a few minutes, the Bank of Montreal Nations Cup from Spruce Meadows. Tonight, the World Cup of Hockey continues, Canada versus Sweden in a semifinal in Philadelphia. And tomorrow afternoon, the Argos looking for their 9th straight winner at home to Saskatchewan on the CFL on CBC. Doug Flutie and his Toronto mates on a giant roll. The Alouettes win here. Thanks for watching this telecast, and now it's off to Spruce Meadows. Here's Scott Russell.
All right,